Good morning, you lovely people. This is Tait, Pirate Life Radio, brought to you by CavemanCoffee.com. Caveman Coffee, all your best caffeinated needs. T-shirts, hats, Pirate Life hats, T-shirts, rashies, all your additional flavors and accoutrements that you'd like to put in your coffee. We got MCT oil, cacao. The only thing we don't sell is the butter. And, all grass-fed, sustainable products. And we only want what's the best for your body. And so how do you get highest performance, highest functionality? I do it with Caveman Coffee. I do it with my diet. I do it really looking at the way things are produced and sustained and brought into this world. And I support who I want to support. So as always, man, vote with your dollars. And hope to see you at cavemancoffee.com. Also nuevocerveza.com. A beautiful little microbrew, all brought out of the mountains of New Mexico, man. Nuevocerveza.com. You can get our Hetero shirt made in New Mexico. And everything is all these companies, all these products that I talk about on this podcast, they're all made out of a bunch of friends that have known each other for years and have just tried. And the more we've learned and honed it in and dialed it in and grown, we've got viable companies off the ground now. And so just keep trying. That's really the message to all of us about Pirate Life Radio, is just keep trying. And so Nuevo Cerveza is one of those. Me and my friend Marcos Aragon, he was one of the originators of Undisputed Fitness also. And that's my gym in Santa Fe, where we house 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, strongman modalities, CrossFit. We do adaptive athletes, a bunch of guys in wheelchairs. Whatever your fitness, whatever your level, we got you covered. And everybody's just speaking in terms of excellence and functionality and performance and what your goals are and getting you there. And that's undisputedfitness.com. So check us out at any of those, man. cavemancoffee.com, nuevocerveza.com, or undisputedfitness.com. Nuevo Cerveza, for all you white folks out there, is NUEVOCERVEZA.com. Check it out. And of course, my friend Aubrey at onit.com. Y'all already know. It's just the highest form of upgrading your life that you can do. And he's got all the products there, and whether from kettlebells, mace clubs to Alpha Brain. I love to take Alpha Brain. It helps me rest. I take 6 of them at night, and it helps me just to sleep deeper, sounder, and quicker. Get into that. I believe I get into that REM state quicker than I would if I just went to sleep naturally. And I always wake up feeling rested and ready to go. And I burn my days up pretty good. I'm going, and so I do whatever I can to make that time count. And sleep and recovery, man, that's an important time. So I don't know if anybody else takes it at night. I think they take it in the daytime for mental clarity and acuity and things like that. But whatever, man. Find your flavor. Anyway, that's it. cavemancoffee.com, nuevocerveza.com, onit.com, and undisputedfitness.com. Find them all on Instagram, too. And I'm on Instagram at Tait Fletcher. So check it out. Hope you all be good to each other, love each other, and peace out. This morning, welcome. Such a treat, man. Mike Dolce and Carlos Condit in the house, on the heels of the last Carlos Condit podcast that we did. Mike happened to roll through Albuquerque, and we always try to get together wherever we are because we're kind of kindred spirits, and we don't link up very much. But what a great little conversation this turned out to be, and looking forward to the next one already. But Mike is a master in nutrition and movement excellence, and he trains a lot of guys that are and girls that are top athletes for the UFC in weight cuts, and that makes it sound simple. It's an oversimplification of what he does, for sure. He really goes deeply into the science of each athlete and how to get them into a place where they can function and perform at the highest level. What's the smartest way for them to cut weight to get to that event? And that's the smallest thing that he does. What he really does is he reaches out to regular hobbyists and normal people all over, and he does plans for everybody, man. The guy is out there, and he's doing his part to change the world. Sprung out of sprung out of the beautiful halls of the Renzo Gracie Academy in New York City, and he was on The Ultimate Fighter at one time, and he just turned into nutrition and dietary needs and strength and functioning, and banged it out that way, man. And I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. And then you get, little brief interjections from Carlos here and there. And that dude is a fascinating cat, and getting ready, of course, for his title fight against Robbie Lawler coming up in the early days of January. I think it's about 5 weeks out or 4 weeks out right now, and looking solid and sharp. And it's just a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure to be able to connect with these kinds of people. And I hope you enjoy the podcast today, and God bless, man. Hug somebody. Have a great, great day. Bye.
A big Tait Fletcher.
Powerful Tait Fletcher.
Is a real alpha male.
Weightlifter.
He's a stuntman.
Movie star.
Robust, enthusiastic individual.
He's huge, by the way. He's like a monster person.
One of the sweetest guys I know.
He's bigger than life.
Actor.
Entrepreneur.
A fighter.
The jiu-jitsu technician.
He's also bald and he has all these tattoos. He's just a big fucking man.
A man, a myth, a legend.
Tait Fletcher.
Tait Fletcher.
Tait Fletcher.
What's up, Tait Fletcher, you bad motherfucker?
Tait Fletcher. Tait Fletcher is
Tait Fletcher.
Teddy bear. Motherfucking Fletcher, ladies and gentlemen.
That's Tait Fletcher, everybody.
The great Tait Fletcher. Tait the animal Fletcher. Tait the savage Fletcher. Always moving. There's no stillness with Tait Fletcher. You will find no dust.
Tait Fletcher's in the house, ladies and gentlemen. He just said the word erection.
Tait Fletcher.
Tait Fletcher's in the fucking house. Tait Fletcher!
Tait really blasts out some serious hardcore truth bombs, and I think you're really going to enjoy it.
Whew. All right, welcome to Pirate Life Radio. We just getting going this morning. I think this will be my second cup of coffee, but boy, oh boy, it was slow going. I found a can on the car on the way down, and welcome this morning. We got Carlos Condit and Mike Dolce. Carlos is our backup hitter today because he's sleepy, but goddamn, Mike, it's been great to see you. We got two mics. We got to pass back and forth, but other than that, we're all solid. And
Awesome.
Welcome to New Mexico.
Happy to be here. First time in the coveted Caveman Coffee headquarters.
It's pretty dope.
This is sweet, man. Yeah.
It's nice. I'm glad you got to see him roast too yesterday.
Absolutely.
David's a master.
Yeah, took a few extra minutes to hear the science and really his passion for what he's doing. So
yeah, he's one of those guys. Like, I don't know. We talk about it a bunch. But whenever anybody gets really good at one thing, it kind of is transcendent. And you're like, oh, that dude that's really great at that, he can talk to you that's great at this, and there's like a common language.
Yes, sir.
And man, when you hear like anybody that's a nerd, I got the biggest admiration for him, because of whatever you nerd out on, man, it means you're passionate. It's like, and that's the thing that spurs life, and that people I think get scared to do. They get scared to be passionate.
Absolutely. And we were talking yesterday, the past couple of days, about quote nerds in our world, people that just are really diligent, professional, passionate, highly experienced, educated, that love what they do. Yeah. Now rewind 20 years ago, when they're in school, they're getting good grades, they're paying attention, right. They're kind of like participating, quote, they're a nerd, and kind of ostracized. Fast forward 20 years, they're the leaders of industry, it's part true. Of like the 1%.
Look at like that Miles Jury dude or somebody, or you look at these athletes, you look at some of the best, like especially in jiu-jitsu, everybody thinks, oh, jiu-jitsu is going to be like this or that. The guys that are the best in there, they don't look like me or you. They look like a little geeky computer nerd, and they're killers.
Yeah, man, I worked with Kai Otero there for a little while, and the guy weighs about $130 and could tap us all like nothing. He's a small guy, and in a sense, a bit of a nerd. He's just a little bit introverted, and just the wheels are constantly turning, and he's on a different level, and his brain is figuring out these complex spatial equations faster than we can even. He's 10 steps ahead before we're even, and it's interesting stuff.
Always the most interesting people are the nerdy ones.
That's right.
And like not necessarily in school, but like whatever you bite onto and you chew into, it's like the guys that you saw growing up, and they're all drawing comic book pictures or whatever in the back or whatever. What's your background, man? I've been like such a fan for a long time, and then when we met at the Onnit opening of the academy there, and fuck, we didn't get to talk. You and your brother, and then we didn't get to talk enough. But like, it's an interesting background that you've had. Like, you've always been an athlete. Is that the deal?
Always been a blue collar athlete, not genetically gifted at all. You know,
Right.
I really no athletic attributes. So everything with me really came down to hard work. I had to work harder than everybody else in order to participate, and that became one of my strengths. And then I realized, you know, how do I kind of advance and excel? Surround yourself with great people. When I was in high school, I, you know, flew myself out to Iowa, wrestled for 3 weeks with Dan Gable and the Brands brothers.
And where's that from? You
From New Jersey.
Yep.
So born and raised in New Jersey.
and then you go to Iowa. That's a kind of a bold move.
It was, you know, because
With the Brandt brothers. Jesus.
and they were they were crushing at the time, and it was the only way out. You know, I grew up in a very poor family. Dad wasn't there; he got real sick. Mom's working 3 jobs. I'm looking around, and I'm like, how do I get out of here? I got to get to school. I got to get educated. I got to excel. Can't afford college. That's not in the works. So I need to get a scholarship. Too short to play basketball. Too skinny to play football. You know, not agile enough to play soccer. So I might as well wrestle, and I kind of got into wrestling that way, and that's really where I developed the love of sports performance and started to educate myself. So I was I wrestled varsity as a freshman, which is kind of a big deal at that time. Was even voted varsity captain as a freshman, which showed I had the respect of the guys on the team.
That's kind of crazy. So you're a team leader, and you're a walk-on and a team leader right away.
Exactly. Never wrestled before, and it was because of work ethic, and I was just a leader on the mat, pushing the guys to go farther, getting my ass. I was 2-12 my freshman year. I got my ass kicked.
Work ethic is so huge.
That's
I feel like everybody, because we tell ourselves lies, all the stories that I'm like, oh, well, that guy's just, one of the biggest lies. Oh, well, he's just naturally gifted. We throw that around a lot too, and it kind of disrespects the guy, whether he is naturally gifted or not. But then it makes me impotent in the way that it's like as if that's not available to me, as if there's something that's outside the scope of my abilities or something. When it's just really, no, that guy really works hard.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And it's like, and you don't see that a lot, and that's why I really I always admire the captains that it's weird. I never. I always thought, well, Keith Jardine is the hardest working guy that's there. Like, he just works hard. He's a workhorse, kind of hard, and he doesn't say anything. He just works hard. If he's hurt, nobody knows it. And he just taught me a lot just by watching him. But also, like Holly, she was always just boxing, and I was always like, well, she works way harder. She's almost like a superhero in a way, or something like that, and that that's what she does all day, and like most of her work is like giving to other people. Like, she'd go down to Define and teach kickboxing classes to cardio moms, and and it's crazy, and it's nice that's at the end of the day, what the truth is, the lie isn't like, oh, they're just naturally gifted. The truth is that they're naturally passionate, inspired enough to keep going on and to work harder than everybody else, and that's a beauty, man.
And that's the gift. It's the passion and the drive is the gift. That's what's going to push you to excel. That's going to, when you're tired or you don't have the motivation, your passion and your drive for whatever it is your pursuit is going to push you through, and is going to make you, drive you towards the top level and drive you to improve.
I think it's almost good to suck a little in a way, because I've seen, how many guys have you seen, bro, that where it's like they came in and they've only gone to class a couple days, and you're like, that dude is fucking really good, and he knows he's really good. And everybody's like, dude, they say you're natural. They say all these things, right? And then that dude's like, nah, whatever, because he doesn't earn it. And then some of the guys that I think had the best potential in a way, I never saw in the gym again. Just because it's like they didn't ever have to work for it.
Talent can be a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
It just depends on your perspective and really kind of your internal makeup. Are you going to be that guy that trains hard, or that pushes through it, or listens to everybody and like, oh, well, I'm good enough. I don't have to go that extra mile. Speaking personally, I sucked at a lot of things, man. I was okay, but I had like these intangibles. Like, I was gritty, I was scrappy,
and angry. You're like angry enough to get through and be like, oh, I'm going to try more, like that try again thing. Get up again.
I'm going to go just that little bit hard. I wasn't fast. I wasn't like, any of these things that you can measure, you can quantify.
But you find out you're tough.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. Without a doubt.
Yeah, dude, that's one of the biggest things. And well, Well, and to get back, like, so then you go from wrestling, and then you get out of high school, and there's no more wrestling.
No more. Well, I actually did. I got a Division I scholarship leaving my senior year, and in the state tournament, I wound up blowing out my shoulder. Yeah.
Like a dislocation or
total tear. Tore the labrum, tore two of the ligaments, and didn't want to get the surgery. Didn't have the best health care to do so.
Right.
Kind of that was up in the air.
Even right now, and that's how long ago?
That's 22 years ago.
Even right now, I saw a doctor 5 years ago in Santa Monica, and he's like, "Yeah, we're not really great at shoulders, so you might if you can hold off.
Hold off." And I decided.
So 20 years ago, like I had one done, but it's not the best.
And how is it now?
I mean, this one, it's just range of motion stuff for me, but I mean, I had it done when I was 15 or something. Is the first time I started having chronic dislocations because I think I was growing at a different rate than my ligaments and muscles could keep up with.
Sure.
And once it went, it just kept going. And I put it out maybe, 50 times one summer, and I just learned to put it back in. And I'd take my shirt off and it would dislocate. And it was horrible. But and then I get it cleaned up. I get the AC joint cleaned up, 20 years later because it's all jacked up. And the doctor looks at it and he goes, "Who did this to you?" And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, "It's just unconscionable. It would be unethical to move your anatomy around like this because they cut off one of the bicep heads and they moved it and screwed it underneath. And so there's like a 6-inch screw in here and then the labrum's tapped down. And he's like, "Yeah, we just don't do it like that." I'm like, it was cutting edge shit at Michigan State University back in the day. So that's the thing is like now I'm all excited about stem cells and shit. I need to come out to your neighborhood because that's where I guess there's a dude out there that does placental stem cells and I'd really like to get it.
Absolutely, and you hear, I mean, it's just huge advancements in
you
science.
Do any of that or no?
I don't yet have a couple athletes that have, and I've seen dramatic recovery out of it. So I'm learning more about the science of it also because we're seeing more people within our practice coming in looking for advice, and a lot of them are looking for advice on how do I help expedite the healing through nutrition and through, because we're a holistic company, how do we use a holistic lifestyle in order to stay injury free, or in the case of an injury, how do we get healthy again? And then we're seeing a lot more of the stem cell.
How many guys do you have that work under your umbrella?
We have 2 registered dietitians sitting in my office right now in Las Vegas. We have 1 accredited practicing dietitian who's in Australia. So we have U.S. based, we have Australian based, expanding in Australia.
They're huge. Those guys are crazy. The Australians, that's one of my biggest fan bases. Australia, Canada, and the U.S. because they're like fucking they're just down ass people. They're like eager for whatever's out there. Like, what's new, what's fresh? Yeah, let's do this. Like this global world becoming smaller is so exciting.
It's awesome, and because of this global world, same thing with us. We've jumped across the Pacific down into Australia. It used to be like kind of Canada, UK was our number 2 market outside of the US. Over the last 2 years, Australia became our number 2 market,
and New Zealand also. Like New Zealand, they're like coupled. You kind of can't mention one without the other.
True, but they were very sure to let me know that we are 2 totally distinct cultures and countries.
I got 2 friends back in Venice, and one's from Australia and one's from New Zealand, and they were having the All Blacks were playing whoever Australia's, and it was the championship, and I was like, I had to leave town, but I was so bummed because I missed the championship. But you see the All Blacks warm up and shit, and the shit they're savage, man.
Intense.
The other guys are standing there trying to hold strong for a while, and then you can just see them kind of break as it goes on. You're like, oh my god, yeah, that's dope. Yeah, different folks for sure.
Folks, real cool culture.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, they all cut their own heads off and they're throwing their heads at us. What do we do now? We're just here to play ball.
We're forfeiting.
Yeah. So when you guys get a client, then you guys all jump on together, or do you guys have people that are attributed to certain coaches? Or
well, we have each member. So both my dietitian, all 3 of the dietitians, they all have their master's degrees. 2 are in exercise sciences, exercise physiology. 1 is nutrition sciences, and then we also have a CSCS, certified strength and conditioning specialist, that helps us when we do any programming and such. So we have what I call a 3-eye protocol. Anytime that we work with any athlete, any client, 3 of us actually have to put our eyes on the program.
Sick, that's beautiful.
To vet it and make sure that when it finally does end up in your inbox, when we serve the client, 3 different eyes have caught, from grammatical errors,
holes that would be
any holes, and also input, because I might be biased towards my specialty or my preference,
right,
and that gets eradicated through these 3 different eyes that touch anything.
Yeah.
before they get to the client. So we do, all the nutrition. We help with the programming, the periodization of training protocols, whether it's for soccer moms,
Right.
Type 2 diabetics, or elite athletes.
How hard is it when you're showing programs like strength and conditioning programs when you're because a lot of the stuff that you're prescribing, like I see what you do, it's not like normal stuff that you grew up in the gym working out so do you have that's got to be accessed with videos or with long discussions about how all that works, right?
For like prescribing
like
protocols?
if you're prescribing something to a dude in Florida or something and you're not there, it's like, well, I want to take you through a gym workout and show you what all these look like. Or
we have a complete video database. We have over 200 exercises that we prescribe with technique breakdown. So I can show exactly how to do just a traditional body weight squat to someone that had a recent ACL replacement, to a triple body weight squat for an advanced power lifter, exactly where the bar path should be, how your hip should be sitting.
Triple body weight would be very advanced.
That's
it.
And so we have a scaling criteria. So from a novice, right off the street, never exercised before, morbidly obese, that was what we would consider a novice trainee. And then we can scale that person through protocol all the way to the point of advanced, depending on where they want to end up. And it basically starts with body weight movements, to then we start loading with just, broomstick or barbell.
Right.
And then we start, based upon percentage of body weight, so we can really guarantee progress, but it's all based upon body mechanics and then what your goal set is. You don't have to squat double body weight, but we would consider you in high level intermediate when you do squat double body weight or 1.25 or 2.25 to 2.5 deadlift of body weight. So scaling that's based upon strength standards, and then when you hit advanced like a Carlos, then that kind of goes out the window, because then it becomes very sport specific. The minutia comes in.
I guess he's never seen me lift because I'm not hitting those percentages. Just kidding.
Yeah, dude, it's and then you can see too if you start working with maximal loads, like he's got a bench press that's twice as much of a squat. Maybe there's a problem with this or whatever,
Yeah, and that's. It's absolute strength is important, and sometimes athletes, they minimize absolute strength potential. That carries over to all other aspects of strength from our philosophy, and there's other coaches and systems that might disagree with that, but we feel the science is pretty strong that the stronger the higher your absolute strength component is, the higher all your other athletic attributes will be if they're trained properly.
I think that's absolutely true. That's a science now, right? I think you'd
not all embrace it, but that's what we feel is that
you'd be deficient in your thinking if you didn't think that were the case, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking with Adrian Gonzalez, Carlos' strength coach over at Elevate, he's exactly on board, and we were talking about segmenting the different characteristics of strength, where some teams or systems, they'll come in and they'll do like max deadlift, then they'll do like high rep bench press, then they'll do like plyo jumps, then they'll get on like the Airdyne and they'll do like a metabolic circuit. And we both disagree with that you need to walk into the gym with one specific purpose, looking to increase one specific portion,
because
of those
whatever
attributes.
your maximal load was for exercise A, now that we're in a metabolic, like you're going to maybe diminish the gains and returns that you would get from that, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So like, do you periodize that to go, okay, well, we're going to work for a max deadlift in the morning or whatever, and then we do some auxiliary training around that, and then we're going to do go back and do metabolic conditioning in the afternoon? Like, is there a certain amount of hours or time frame that you put that in?
Depends on the training phase. So we'll pull out and look at the 12-month program. So we'll try and help you periodize 12-month training program, 12-week cycles, typically a 1 week off in between to kind of separate the cycles.
Do you only fuck with pro athletes, or do you have regular civilians?
No, we only work with 6 to 10 pro athletes a year on purpose, because that requires,
I would think, having this other expertise. It's like that's a whole nother component.
We need to. It's a 24/7 job with us. Our whole team is devoted to giving these athletes exactly what they need, because they're competing at the high level. But the bulk of our business is dealing with regular people, moms and dads and weekend warriors, and we're really focused on children and families. So we're starting a nonprofit organization for children with eating disorders and childhood obesity to help kind of change the cycle right now, unfortunately, through educating families how to eat properly, how to shop properly, how to set up their kitchen properly, and how to teach their children what real food actually is.
Isn't that crazy? We don't know that. There's no lessons in that.
Nobody knows that.
It's a trip, man. And that's not the impetus. Like, I don't know. I've been really thinking lately how, especially like Greeks thought like this too, like how remiss we are to not have excellence in our body, like to not know, like to not have like a learner's permit for what this thing is and for what the capabilities are for health and for nutrition and all that. And we don't, if we do give children information, it's like really maybe misinformed or it's predicated on the idea of like, well, we want it to be flavorful and fun and so they like it. It's like, instead of just like, one of my friends, this guy does he was a football player and all that, he says, my twins, he says the girls' first meal when they could eat a meal was liver and onions. And they just love it. And he says, so like if it comes in a crinkly bag, it's like that's a foreign thing to them. And it's kind of like the first generation that we have where people are having a conversation about food with their kids, you know, because you're like, oh, I'm kind of savvy about food now in this way. And I want my kid to have the best kind of jump start, if it were like possible, because it's all nutrient, you know. It's all, and I didn't know that until I was in my 20s or something. Probably it's crazy. We're just not taught anything.
Yeah, same here. I really didn't switch onto it until I was in my mid-20s, always training for performance and abusing my body, tons of supplements, and really looking for that just get across the finish line first mentality.
For a while, you're believing like whatever magazine, you're like, oh, on this page, this one, and that guy, Flex Wheeler's doing this, and so that means, and all this shit, all the illusions that we're taught to think of as reality.
Exactly, and we follow that because the guys look great, and they don't say that, well, they're on fucking drugs.
You don't know they're liars.
Yeah, they're pure liars. It's all
just
marketing.
trying to sell you. They're trying to sell. They're trying to make money.
Yeah.
You know, and you know the detriment to your health by taking a lot of that stuff and neglecting, you know, eating real food, eating shit that grows from the ground, you know, eating what fucking the human animal was supposed to eat, you know, in nature, you know, and feeding us this, you know, this processed bullshit. You know, we're seeing the effects in society. I mean, our society is getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And that has an effect on the education, the productivity of our country. Has a you know, our economy in general. You know, how much of our GDP is going towards healthcare? It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's climbing. It's snowballing. You know, this is getting out of control as we go. And a guy like Mike is really, you know, on the cutting edge. He's one of these guys who's out there trying to change this thing. You know, this thing has got away from us, you know, maybe since, you know, 40s or 50s, when a lot of the processed foods started coming out and becoming popular. Oh, it's just easier, and microwaves, and everybody just wants the simple, and it's like the new wave of everything is good, but we went too far too fast without knowing what the fuck we were doing, you know, and this has implications on a lot of different levels, man. You know, socially, you know, politically, spiritually. I mean, there's a lot of layers to this thing, and you know, it really boils down to our food. Getting back to basic, you know, eating the shit that we're supposed to eat.
And then I think also like where it overlaps with food and shit, and you look at it and you go, well, yeah, get it done quicker. Like I need to make food quicker and all that. And why is that? Because now we've got a deflated dollar. You need to make more money. Now instead of a one person earning home, there's two people just to be able to pay the rent and raise a kid. And so we need to get out of the house quicker. So the whole thing is just built on being more harried and a sicker animal in that way. Like you said, just becoming sicker and sicker and sicker.
Yeah.
And just work and consume, whether it's this crap food or whether it's all this material shit that we don't need. You know, we're just cogs in a machine, unfortunately.
Bigger house. We need, you know, more cars.
And if we allow it, we're cogs in a machine. I mean, that's the thing. That's like that's the thing. That's why I love talking to guys like you on this, is because it's like it gets a word out. Like, oh, here's another way to look at that. Here's a whole nother conversation. And fuck, it's so important to have the conversations and to communicate that way.
Not enough people are, and through your podcast and through these conversations, people, they listen to us. And what I try and say is, I'm not mad at people that are living like this if they don't know. They're just not educated.
No, I get it.
But once they hear the message, now you're on the hook. Now, if you're feeding your kids McDonald's because they brought home an A on their report card,
or something?
That is the wrong reward system.
Yeah.
What are you teaching them now as they progress through life that it's good to poison myself if I do something well, if I get an A, if I hit the home run,
Right.
I can go and dump sugar and toxins and chemicals into my body.
Instead of having it look like a reward, like, oh, that's a sweet treat or whatever, it's like, it's making you slower and weaker and less able.
Yeah.
Instead of it being like, oh, this tastes good, like, have it be what it really is. Here's the long end of it. Do you want to be like, if I had a little kid, I'd be like, do you want to be more savage? Do you want to be more able? Do you want to be more ready to deal with whatever comes up and you can be the master of your domain around you?
Yeah.
Or do you want to be a little sicker and weaker and get pushed around a little more? Like, because that's what we're talking about. And that's just by food, just by your choices and your disciplines.
Yeah. So lifestyle-related illness will kill 2 out of 3 Americans.
Right.
Says the Center for Disease Control.
So I tripped out with that. Like, I don't know.
That's your choice.
Yeah.
You're deciding to kill yourself.
Yeah. It's a self-imposed illness, right?
Absolutely. And it's people look around and they'll go to the bar on the weekend, they'll eat the wings, they'll have the beers, they'll smoke the cigarettes, they'll kind of stay up too late, they'll do all the things that quote everybody else is doing, but everybody else will die 2 out of 3.
And even all these so-called anarchists that are out there, I'm like, it's all your excuse is that it's state sanctioned. Well, it's legal, or well, it's whatever. Like, it's like, so you get to be completely thoughtless is the idea. Like, so you're an unthinking human, and like that whole the impetus about training the body correctly is like, that's the other reason that I like. I don't just talk to anybody because it's boring, but like people that are well-rounded and going, no, you need to be educated. You need to fucking read. You need to understand classical ideas. You need to understand history. Like without those things, man, we're lost in that way. And there is no power in that because you're just like, oh, there's the, I mean, especially like if you're a fighter or you look a certain way, it's like, oh, you're an idiot. Because what do? We're bouncers or something like that, or we're, like that becomes the deal. And then it's like this whole other conversation comes up. What do you think about, you've worked in a couple different sports, like you were a power lifter for a while too, right?
Powerlifted for a while, work with fighters, work with CrossFitters, NFL, work with a lot of high-level athletes, even Hollywood, which is kind of not athletic, but there's still certain demands.
When I get some Hollywood money, I'm going to call you.
All right.
There's that sparkling water too, and cold brew if you want. The difference is when did you start powerlifting versus MMA? Because you had an MMA career too, and you were looking at that and going, "What about this?" And like, talk about that and like what drew you to where you are now. Like,
so the transfer from wrestling, when I blew out my shoulder, no surgery, just went through the rehab process really on my own. Started to focus on physiology and kinesiology and how can I help get stronger, how can I kind of rebuild this? Now, I powerlifted as cross-training for wrestling, but I was always a wrestler first. And I started...
Do you always think that powerlifting was the best thing you could do?
Yes.
Yeah.
I always... And part of it was...
That's way ahead of the game back then to think that.
I could feel it.
I believe it now, but I would have never believed it then probably.
For sure, because you look at a powerlifter, and this is why we blend our scaling system. You have to be a master of body weight movement before you start to add load. And then once we start adding load, which is, barbells or resistance, we never stop training body weight movements also. So we increase our flexibility, we keep our range of motion, our mobility. It's very important. But now we're adding absolute strength or different strength elements to the mastery of the human machine.
That's a crazy thing, like Louis Simmons and Shane Sweat, man. Shane and Laura Sweat, they taught me so much about exactly what you're speaking of. And like, if you want to have, like, they're like, people would increase knockout power. Like, you can see how they get diminished, especially playing a point game, And that's kind of what I thought like Holly's boxing would be, because she's in a long haul boxing, and so she's going to touch a lot, but there's not a lot of turnover power. But I knew her kick, so I'm like, you're going to put somebody to sleep for sure. Sure. But like that power, I mean, when you train for a sport specific thing, like, because and why I say that about the boxing power, not that can't change, but that like, you either train to be a knockout, like it's like just like anything, right? You either train, you're the guy that knocks people out, or you're the guy that wins decisions. The guy that wins decisions never knocks people out, and the guy that knocks people out never wins the decision because he blows it all out, right? It's that's the way. And so like then when you see these guys in MMA get to 5-round fights, well, you're not seeing the same kind of finishes and dynamic performances that you saw in 3-round fights because they got to save it. They got to win the 4th round too. Yeah. Like that's the deciding stuff. And so like with that powerlifting, I think that that's a huge thing, because then you can, if you're at that maximal rate, right? Is that the idea that then that fifth round will be just as easy too? You don't necessarily need to do a ton of endurance to get there. You've already created endurance by having a sustainable maximal 1 rep max of whatever it is.
The higher your absolute strength level is, the higher your aerobic threshold should also be. You should not have one without the other, and one will increase the other if you're properly segmenting your training. So even
but then endurance training, straight endurance training, will not increase even endurance training, really.
Yes.
And it certainly won't increase the other things. But if you're training to get anabolic with your movements, and you're doing weight training, that will increase those thresholds, but not in reverse. Is that right?
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes. So absolute strength improves everything, but everything doesn't improve your absolute strength. So if you're only focused on strength speed or endurance, or even your metabolic conditioning, especially or anaerobic base, aerobic base, everybody has to have a well-developed aerobic base. You should be able to walk out the front door and walk for an hour without breathing hard or problem.
Right.
Not a lot of people can do that. They start gassing out in 15, 20 minutes. We'll put them on the treadmill at 3 miles an hour or so, and you can see their heart rate goes from 110 to 115 to 140, even up into the 150s.
That's
walking
amazing.
3 miles an hour on a flat surface. Totally detrained state. Now, the ability for them to recapture that is very easy. It just comes with consistency. A lot of it comes with diet.
How hard is it for them to get back into a consistency?
It's
like once they see a little bit of gains to come in, or do they go, I'm good, and I go back and revert?
You just hit it. Once they see gains, it becomes addictive.
Okay.
It's like all of a sudden you get that paycheck and you're like, wow, this is
Right.
awesome. And then you get another paycheck, for more money than the last time, and your pay scale keeps increasing. Same thing with making progress in health and fitness. But people have to be compliant. And then we talk about the social aspect. Most people fall off because of the social aspect. Their wife
Because
is like,
their friends are pulling them back into another, okay.
the big game's on. Come on, just have a pizza. You already lost 10 pounds. You deserve it. You've earned
It's
it.
exactly the reason. So that's why it's hard for a hobbyist in a way. Like a professional's like, you only hang out with fighters or whatever. You only hang out, in that kind of thing.
Yeah, you surround yourself with people who are on a similar mission to you, and it's
Right.
a lot easier to stay on that path.
Yeah. That cutting away friends is a bitch. Like, it's hard. It makes you feel disloyal, this and that and whatever. But I'm like, bro, you got to consider your friends either give you health or they give you cancer. Mm-hmm. And so, you might want to love some people from across the street.
They're pulling you up or they're pulling you down. And I don't necessarily think you have to cut friends out, but you maybe pick and choose the things that you do with them. Right. It's like, hey, man, this is what I do with my life. I do active stuff. Yep. You want to go hiking when you're in town? Yep. Cool, but I'm not going to go to the bar with you.
Right.
I'm
disciplined in this way, and this is what I've got to gain. Because that's the thing about life is if you, most people are like, I just react to life, and life happens to me. As opposed to I'd like to go somewhere with this, and do these actions go if you can't argue cause and effect, you can argue God, you can argue whatever you want. I'm not going to argue with you, but whatever. But like cause and effect is a thing, man. Like if I put this into the hopper, these results are going to come out, and it'll be I'll be able to guess. If I put everything in there, I'll get more results. But if I get focused a little bit, I'll have a few certain results that I'm liking, if I get proactive about that, or that I'm not liking, if I think that I don't know how cause and effects works, and I can just go ahead and spit on whoever I come across in the world and things should be fine. I was like, oh no, you learn quickly that that's not probably going to pan out for you, And I think the same thing with how we act, whether it's intellectual, spiritually, however it is, whatever we're looking for, we need to be enveloped in, kind of, create a womb.
And that takes a certain level of awareness, though, because a lot of people want to pawn the negative, the negative results they get on other things, other people, things that are out of their control. When, in reality, we do have a lot of efficacy over our lives and our choices on different levels, whether it's health, whether it's professional, spiritual, and relationships. The things that we do matter, and sometimes we're so in it where it's hard to see the forest through the trees.
Sure.
When you step back and you're able to kind of look at it objectively, which is hard, you can kind of say, whoa, and if you have some other people who are on that same path, like I said, to help bounce this stuff off, and that are looking to improve themselves, looking to improve their lives, they can give you feedback, honest feedback, dude. Not just be that guy who's like, oh, well, no, totally. Oh, dude, don't even worry about it, that sort of thing.
That dude was an asshole anyway,
Yeah.
or what, all that kind of stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
I know.
Yep.
I call it my picket fence. Like I've got a handful of people around me, maybe a little more even. I'm fortunate as anything with the love that I got around me, but like that I'm careful about. And like one of the things is that they're stringently honest, that they're not like gonna color code stuff. Because I think it's a Johari's window, I think it's called. I was in a halfway house for a while, and they taught me about all this. And they go, there's the you that the whole world sees and that you know, and there's the you that only your friends know, and there's the you that maybe only your family origin knows. Then there's the you that only you know about that you don't tell anybody. And this part that was the scary part for me was like, there's a part of you, Tait, that you're not even aware of how you are in the world, that other people are aware of. And I'm like, that's the slipping point. That's the part that I'll go to prison for. That's the part that I'm gonna that's where I need help, is in that part. And so then I go, fuck, you got to be careful with who's around you. These motherfuckers have to be honest. They have to love you. You have to know they love you so you can trust them. And then they got to tell you the truth. And since then, man, I've been careful, man.
Yeah, I don't want cheerleaders around me.
Right.
Whether it's in my personal life, definitely not in my professional life. I'm kind of that guy that I want you to give me. I want you to critique me, even if it's negative. Tell me what you think,
dude.
Really.
My friends are like some like free runners, and they do like they're kickers. Which is like real martial artsy free running kind of thing. Badass, dude. Jeremy Marinas is one. There's these guys at 8711. It's a stunt outfit, and Jeremy's sick, and Anise is his buddy, and Anise is a good friend too, and he's wicked. And did you see the fuck was it? It was with Jeff Bridges, Tron, the new Tron, and then the opening scene, the main bad guy, and he's in that tube, and he's just fucking going crazy in there. So that's Jeremy's first film job ever, right? The guy that he was the director of John Wick calls him on the phone, like hits him up on an email, saw emails of him, and go, hey, you want a job? And so Tron was his first, and he moves wicked, right? But he's going, and Anise is sick too, and so he goes, Anise does some shit, and he goes, well, how was it? What'd you think? And Jeremy's like, it's all right. He's like, why are you hating, dude? Like, what the fuck? And Jeremy's like, dude, it was all right. I mean, and he says, well, that dude did something not even half as hard, and you're like giving him all kinds of praise. He goes, dude, you're fucking Anise. He says, I expect it was all right, but it wasn't Anise good. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's what you're saying. It's like, yeah, it's not, I mean, yeah, you look great in that combination and everything, but that ain't Carlos Condit good. You know what I mean? And it's like you need your friends to help you go, no, I know what you're capable of, motherfucker, and you're mailing it in right now. Fucking get juicy with it. Let's go.
Yeah. If we're comfortable where we're at, it's hard for us to grow. And so surrounding ourselves with people who are willing to push us out of our comfort zones and being comfortable, getting uncomfortable is where we're going to grow.
My favorite thing Coach Jackson
progress.
says. Yep. Get comfortable where other men are uncomfortable. Yep. He's like, everybody's got a breaking point. Make yours unreachable, and so that they get frustrated and theirs will become apparent.
And whether that's like in an endurance application or whether that's a skills application, reaching farther than you can actually grasp.
Yeah.
Setting a goal that's a bit loftier than what you can achieve.
Dude,
right
that was like
now.
building my credit. I mean, it goes. I swear to God, it goes everywhere, bro. It's everywhere. Which is, hey, how'd you get so good at business? Like a lot of guys are good athletes, and they get into that, and then all of us think, hey, after I'm done with this athletic endeavor, I'm going to go ahead and I'll just have and it's like you see failing businesses everywhere under that kind of structure, right?
Yeah.
So what's the lesson? What did you learn, and what was your path for it?
The first aspect of our business, I knew that we would grow based upon word of mouth because we had no marketing budget. And how do you grow based upon word of mouth? You have to over-deliver in product and services and care and quality. So that's the first thing that we wanted to do.
Who's your first guy? I mean, when you say we too, it's you and who at this point?
Myself and my wife. So
Okay.
we are the epitome of a mom and pop shop. And I opened my personal training business in 1997 officially, but I was being paid in 1993 even as a trainer at that 17-year-old.
When you were 7 years old, you were doing that.
17 years old. Yeah, I know. I wish, right? I'm going to go with that. But we never closed the door since. We opened and we were operating at that time in 97 officially and continued on. And we worked with top guys.
So you learned to incorporate and do what all that stuff was like back then.
Back then, exactly.
It's huge, Mike.
And lots of every mistake along the way But that's the best thing. We were always cash flow positive. And that was a big part of business.
And that's huge.
Most people don't get that.
No, for years.
For years. So cash flow positive, low overhead. I mean, we were operating the Dolce diet out of our loft in our little, 2-bedroom home. My wife and I, my
Sounds
brothers.
kind of sexy though. That's cool, man.
Yeah, and
we're in a loft and we're doing this thing. That's dope.
And just like stacks of books and orders and just, how it is.
Yeah, because that's a different time too. You don't have there's no internet then.
No, internet was just,
That's
dial-up.
crazy. It's crazy that in our life there's no internet at a big point of our life, like a big chunk of our life.
Yeah.
No, there was no internet.
I remember the first time I saw someone on a cell phone. I'm a grown man driving, coming home from work, and I see this young girl like turning the corner in like a high school parking lot talking on the phone. I was like, what the like? How does this little girl?
Like, how rich is she?
How rich? Yeah, like
what is she?
And it was a rich
service?
school. Exactly.
Well, that's my uncle was a fucking clown. He was so funny. He was great, Ralph Fletcher, and he'd seen, I don't know where he'd seen it. Like, he'd go to Florida sometimes too, but like he put a rotary phone in on his console and screwed it into his thing just so he could go. He's got the cord from it and the whole thing because he'd fuck with people in traffic and he's ridiculous. But yeah, it was like I remember the first phone was a bag phone you'd put over your shoulder and it was like a cord to the bag. It was like he might as well have been in World War I trying to call in for Allied support. You know.
So with the business, let me touch on that for anyone listening. So I came up with so we have a trainers network that we're trying to help other trainers build their business, build their brand, and kind of we shine the light on our brand to help them also. Say, hey, Joe's got his own gym in Ohio. He's a Dolce approved or certified. So anyway, so we come up with this curriculum for them, and we call it the R's. So the first R is research. You have to be well educated in whatever it is.
If people are following along, is there a place they can look online for this information as you talk about it?
Yep. So if you just go to thedolcediet.com, you click on our news site, anything I'm saying, just type into the search engine. We got like 600 some odd articles there already to help people. Then you click on the Trainers Network box and you immediately get enrolled. And then you'll get, bi-weekly emails from myself, from my team. We got sales, we have marketing, dietitian, strength coach, myself to help you. And it's free. If you want to kind of become certified, you can become certified at one of our seminars or whatnot, but you don't have to get the education.
At what point did you decide to go this way instead of going, I'm going to open up my own gym and go that way?
Good question. So when I was working with Team Henzo Gracie on the East Coast, training up there, working with a lot of their athletes and such.
Fucking guy in martial arts.
He gave me my start, per se.
One of the most beautiful men I ever met.
Yeah. He's he's the man.
Yeah. Well, how fortunate. That's great, man.
How lucky am I, right?
Exactly.
I'm taking a 2-hour train every night to go and train with Henzo and train with, and 2-hour train ride home, and then going to work at 7 o'clock the next morning. So it was living that lifestyle on the grind. This is late 90s, early 2000s. I get hired by Team Quest North, Randy Couture, Matt Lindland, Dan Henderson to be their head strength coach in 2004. So I operate out of there from 04 to 09 or so. Not a lot of cash as a strength coach in MMA back in the early 2000s. That's why I started fighting. So I'm training with the guys anyway. I got a wrestling base. I got knockout power.
And you already feel what all the top guys are feeling like because you're in the room with them and you're like, oh, I could hang here.
I'm competitive. I'm a good mid-level.
Nobody's mad if I'm their training partner.
People would request me because I'm always in shape. I'm strong and I'm kind of that type of short, squatty body, southpaw, wrestler, boxer, I
remember I just got done with Rashad and Keith, and then Mark Court's like, I got Tait next, and I was like, he's like, it's a compliment. I'm like, yeah, there's different times when you can see it as a compliment, and sometimes I don't see it that way, but I do in retrospect for sure. But yeah, I get it. I get what you mean. Yeah, that's what I always tell people. I'm like, at the highest levels of mixed martial arts, I was mediocre. Yeah. And knowing that is it's a huge thing to know. That's great knowledge to have.
Absolutely. I was happy to be in the room with the guys, and that I knew that experience going through it, having 30 or so fights, made me a much better coach because I know how it feels to have my phone ringing and my second cousin once removed is calling me for tickets. That I'm getting that when I got to pay the bills. I'm going to make X amount. If I don't win this fight, I got to figure out a way to cover the rest of the mortgage and the car payment and all that stuff.
I got to get more shifts at the bar or at the factory or whatever the deal is, whatever the adjunct is.
And while going through a 30+ pound weight cut and media and all that, all the BS. So me having gone through that, I know psychologically, emotionally what the athlete's going through, and that helps me be a better coach to help them with the peaking program into this. So it's not just simple, empirical data that's written on a piece of paper.
Because everybody peaks in a different way and under different influences and all that.
So getting to know the athlete's wife, to talk to their coaches, to get in the car and drive back and forth to the gym to see where the traffic is, that helps me also.
Dude, that's what I
with
always
these
say.
programs.
The people that help me the most, they're like, well, what helped you the most? What was the thing? And I go, they gave me the thing that you don't really have to give to anybody, and they gave me their time.
Yeah.
They loved me enough to spend time with me, man. And it's like, there's no way you can show care for somebody more than that. Like, fucking, you spend time with somebody, like, that was the hugest. I mean, it could make me cry, like, thinking of the guys that would have looked at, like, you could have easily looked at it and be like, I'd be wasting my time with this guy. And they fucking took time, man.
Yep.
And
Most
like doing that,
valuable asset.
that's so huge.
Yeah.
So like you get to feel like really for what this is a day in the life feels like.
Breathe their air, know what they go through.
Know how their coaches treat them and all that, because that can be weird.
Exactly. And it's every system change. The principles, just like martial arts or anything, the principles, the underlying principles never change. There are universal principles that must be adhered to, but the individual application is completely different. And that's where the victories are won and lost. It's in the application. Everybody knows you throw a combination, you got to keep your hands up, right? Well, how many guys you see get knocked out because they drop one of their hands? So they're not adhering to those universal principles. And that's where it becomes the individual application of that principle. How do I keep their hand up? Doing what? Where do I step off? Where should my head be? Just, to kind of equate what I do towards, the traditional martial arts.
Yeah.
It's very much the same thing.
So was it a weird transition? Like, so you jumped in and you're with high level. You're not, maybe not even high level. Maybe they're hobbyists at Henzo's, but those guys are about their jits. Like, it's like, so these are athletes that want to go somewhere. How different is that from grabbing like my mom and having a result with her?
For me, because I was training both at the time.
Or did you ever feel like, I'm only working with athletes, fuck all you other people?
Never. I always knew that from a business perspective, as an entrepreneur, the money was in the general public. The money was in the 20 to 40 pounds overweight person. The enhancement of my skills as a coach was in the elite, because if I could replicate results out of Carlos Condit, or
if you can get him to move his clock 2%, well, that means that's a 40% sway in a regular person.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was talking to Glassman about that. Greg Glassman, the founder of CrossFit, and he was like, he's looking at the games and he's like, this is all. He says, my people think I hate it, but it's like, he's like, this is a weird show. This isn't CrossFit what I thought of it. I go, yeah. I go, what I think of it is like, you can restructure somebody's life, and then they take that back to their family, and their family gets involved in it. Now they're not on diabetes medicine. Then their community looks at it and goes, holy shit. Now you really imparted, I mean, you're changing the world. You're literally changing the world. And like, if I'm only working with the guys that are like the top level guys, I give a shit about a top level athlete. That stuff doesn't matter to me at all, because that guy can get better. Maybe he can get better wherever, and he's only going to get better like ticks, a lot of it will be like how well he slept last night and how hard he performs, right, in that way. But like, when you can get everybody else involved, well, that now you're moving a world, man. Like, you want to be a world shaker, that's the guy to get to. And it's weird because it doesn't speak to your ego, because you're like, no, I want to have Josh Bridges or whoever. I want to train George St. Pierre. Or like, and it's like, it doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't, which is a weird trick that the mind does,
Absolutely. And that's it's only one human when there's 7 billion that need the help.
Fuck. And everybody looks at George and like we were talking about earlier. Yeah. You go, well, he's special anyway. You've got all your excuses about him because that's a superhero.
Yep.
And
that's what we hear that a lot. A lot of the regular folks that come to our office, they'll kind of look at some of the posters on the wall and the autographs and the snapshots of the athletes, and they're like, oh well, if all I could do was just train all day, I'd look like her or him too. That's 20 years of hard work to look like that. 5 a.m.
That's like that thing Chael Sonnen said where they go, how do you train for a 5-round fight? And he goes, they're like, how long do you want to camp to be? He's like, it's my whole life.
Yeah.
To feel what pressure has felt like for that, like that's a lifetime event. It's not like I get 6 weeks out or 8 weeks. Like, it's like, I've been feeling pressure for forever. Like, that's what that is. And I think the success is like, I've got the things I'm most excited about at Undisputed up north from here. I've got a gym and that I just have a name only. Like, these fucking fantastic humans run it. But we got 4 guys in wheelchairs that come in that have had accidents at different points in their lives, right? That's so awesome. And motherfucker, man, you want to talk about an adaptive human? Like, those guys are, and you look at that and you're like, that's the thing, is to get people to go, maybe me too, and when you can get folks doing that. And then my mom had a discectomy 2-3 years ago. She had her hip replaced fully last year, and she's deadlifting 150 pounds this year and dragging a sled. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's the shit on the wall. You know, that's what I like. You know,
I'm the same way, where that motivates me more than the massive athletic accomplishments. Obviously, Carlos winning a world title here in a couple weeks, that will be amazing, but also seeing a father and a husband come home with that to his family, I think that's more motivating for me than just the simple act of a world title. It's the impact that he'll have on his family and the community around him, because his example, you know, Carlos, I mean, he's an amazing human being that does
what
so
that'll
much.
spread to later. You know,
That'll
is the other
spread.
thing. That's the huge part. Not everybody feels like it's a moral obligation or something to their world to spread, and he does.
He does. And that's kind of one of the, you know, why I'm so happy to be sitting here next to him and to be able to assist him in this journey, is knowing what he'll be able to do with that gold belt around his waist and more exposure, and help kind of the conversation that we started off with. Well, this is one of the guys that's going to help change the world. And he's already doing it in his own place. The bigger the spotlight is on him, the more people are going to see what he does, how he lives, and kind of the approach that got him there. And it's the right way, where some guys, they get the gold kind of doing it the wrong way, and they don't use the spotlight in the right manner. That's going to benefit.
Knowing those guys too is that they get empty at the end of it. Those guys, they feel like they got it knocked, knowing that they get whatever that result is they want, and then they go, this is it. Instead of like having, like, I think it takes a profound spiritual outlook in a way to go, it's not me going, what do I need? It's like you look at it from, here's the whole world, and like, how can I help make all this happen for other people? Like, and when you get outside of whatever the thing, and that's the hard thing, because like the volume is turned up so loud, I think, as a fighter, that it's easy to echo out whatever else is there, and to really take yourself out of that and to get into a broader mindscape. Like, how do you do that? And do you take time? Is there times that you take specifically to do that, or do you just feel like it's too much a little bit, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to go and I'm going to go and meditate in the mountains, or I'm going to go get or how does that go, or play with the boy? Or
so when you look at martial arts and the tenets of martial arts, it's not that hard. You know, the sport and everything that goes along with it is huge. It's this flashy show business kind of a experience right now, man. There's money and there's glamour.
Part too. It's not just athleticism now. It's not UFC athlete. It's UFC entertainer.
Yeah. Know? So basically, I try to stick to the tenets of martial arts, integrity, giving back, altruism, respect, that sort of thing. And, I think any of us can take the good things that are happening in our lives, and it can go to our heads a little bit, but to kind of get right size about it and look at the bigger picture. You zoom out and you can see, well, you know what, this person helped me here, and he didn't have to. He took his time with me and gave to me without really wanting anything in return. And this guy did the same, and this guy did the same, and like you talked about, people giving their time, which is the most valuable thing we really have, is huge. And so to respect those people that have spent their time with me, the coaches, the mentors, the training partners, and to turn around and in some way give it back. Maybe coaching, maybe teaching a kid how to defend himself, or So
that's ever present for you then. That's in your thought, like maybe not when you're in rounds, but like when you're done training, you're then looking and going, oh, well, that dude's making a mistake there, I could help. Like you're in that mindset kind of continually.
Without a doubt. I love helping guys in the gym, and I don't, sometimes I offer unsolicited advice, and I try to I try not to be that guy.
Doesn't matter how good you are. It feels weird saying that.
Try not to be that guy that's like, oh, hey, by the way, if you do this differently, but it's more like I said, hey, you know what, in that situation, this is what works for me. But anyway,
it's weird because there's a lot of guys that don't care. They're like, oh, I give that advice all the time. And a lot of those guys don't know anything. And then you got a guy like Carlos who's like, it's like Mr. Winklejohn. Well, listen, I don't really know anything, but maybe if you tried it this way or something, it's like, how can you even say that you don't know? Like, it's crazy. Anyway, yeah.
But to give of ourselves is really the thing that that is fulfilling. And if you're passionate about something, put it out there. And even if even if people don't connect with what it is you're passionate about, they connect with your passion.
Sure.
And they connect with your drive. And like we talked about, kind of going back to the first thing we talked about, if you got all these people that are successful in these different fields, and their fields may not relate, they don't really have anything to do with each other, but the paths they walk to get there, these people have a lot in common, and they can relate on a lot of different levels.
Yeah, super similar. Hard work and discipline and persistence. Like you think of all the stuff that all the obstacles that come up where people stop, and people that'll either stop or not stop. It's like it's one of those, and that's like what's their stopping point at? Did you see where you wanted your business to go early on, or did you go, I wanted it here and then it changed into this venue, or that kind of thing? And what was your first and then who was your first interaction with the UFC with like, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, cause you're like endorsed by the UFC as the guy, like there's been a few of the guys, but you've been there for a while now. You've been, in that, and like, who did you look up to before where you're like, oh, that's a possibility as well? I always trip out on like Ariel Helwani for one, because he's another guy. Here's a super nerd that was a journalist or whatever that's like, I don't like the way regular media is, and here's the thing I really dig. And that, I never met him, but like, fuck, man, he's got I've got such admiration for him, just in the regard that like he went and he made a career where there was no career. Yeah. And that's kind of similar to what you've done. I mean, there's people that give you ideas and light bulbs go off, but like, how did that all occur for you?
Yeah, so, working with Henzo, then making the jump to, I left a 6-figure career in real estate tax. I was a municipal tax assessor in New Jersey, but I was always running my business part-time, and that was my passion. I hated the day-to-day job just because it was in politics. I love being a public servant and helping the people, but that's very difficult in politics. So left that, took a huge pay cut to be head strength coach at Team Quest when Randy was getting ready to fight Tito at that time.
And then you moved to Portland for that?
Moved, married my girl, within
like,
4
babe,
weeks.
We're going.
She quit her job.
How down is she?
She's so down.
Jesus,
and she's 15 years, just to celebrate our 15-year anniversary.
Congratulations,
she's
man.
down.
That's rad.
That's rad. She's the one that keeps me grounded. Like, we're talking about, she gives me that feedback and tells me when I'm fucking up, or when I'm, kind of maybe being too generous sometimes, or, she keeps me grounded for sure and lets me know where home is. And she's why I do it. Her and my daughter is why I'm out there grinding, building the business for them. So I'm at Team Quest, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to go to Team Quest. I wanted to do my run there, build my reputation. I wanted to go back to New Jersey, and I wanted to open up a gym.
Still there at that
Evan
time?
Tanner's still there, and he was a beautiful man.
Beautiful.
He's one of the guys that just embraced me immediately, because who's this new dude?
That's a guy that thinks in a different way, man.
Just right. And Chris Lieben, even first night I'm there, Chris invited me to his house for dinner.
Beautiful.
And it was just really kind of cool, and that was pre-Tough One. So that hadn't even come out yet, and Chris, they had just filmed it. So it was kind of really cool era. I mean, Lieben's there, Quarry's there, Sonnen's there. Sonnen's just like a little boy at that time. Eddie Herman, Chris Wilson. I think we had 40 UFC pros float through that gym at one point. And then you got Dan, Matt, and Randy sitting at the top. Evan, forget if he had I think Evan had the belt at that time. So they bring me out. I'm doing my thing, and I'm a strength coach at that time. And the diet's just like an add-on. I'm not even considering the diet because I think everyone's eating this way, right? I mean,
how crazy is that? I remember when Leonard Garcia comes down and I'm like, he's like, well, you want to go get lunch later? I'm like, yeah, cool. I go, what do you want to eat? What do you, because I'm pretty particular. And he's like, I don't know, just probably Taco Bell or something like that. And I'm drinking like fish oil. And he's like, what's that? And I go, it's fish oil. It helps my joints and stuff, and what helps me recovery. And he's like, he's like, I just got some multivitamins from Walmart or something like, or Walgreens, and it's like, and it just struck, and that was a long time ago, but like it struck me like, man, I'm looking at a fucking elite predator, with a diet of an 8-year-old that makes bad decisions. I'm like, God damn.
And that's what I saw.
Yeah, so you assume, I assumed, I'm like, well, you guys are thinking about this as much as me, and you're like, no, they're not.
They're not. They're just work their ass off.
Linden's just eating Copenhagen.
And coffee. I mean, and you want to talk about a man who maximized his genetics. I mean, that's Matt Lindland, silver medal in Greco-Roman wrestling. Pound for pound, one of the best fighters on the planet for a string of years, 2 or 3 years in a row. He was ranked number 1 at 85. So the goal was
I think he wrestled with Mike Van Arsdale also.
they were a similar era back then.
Yeah.
I think Mike went to bronze in Australia, maybe, I want to say, but I'm not sure about that.
So wanted to open up my own gym, getting to, build my reputation, get a couple world champions out of Quest, go back home with a rep, open up a gym, and then just be a gym owner. That was kind of the goal, because I love the weights, I love the gym, and I had the concept of more like a mixed gym. Lots of strength and conditioning, but also have the mat area, because my affiliation with Henzo, probably open a Henzo affiliate, kind of like do that deal, focus on the S&C side. And then within 2 years of being at Quest, the diet really began to take over, and they started calling it the Dolce diet. So it wasn't even the Dolce diet. It's just, I think Eddie Herman was the first one to really coin the phrase, and I was like, kind of almost uncomfortable with it. Like, no, I'm a strength coach.
Right.
Don't like lump me in that group.
Right.
And then,
what am I, Richard Simmons over here?
And that's what it felt like. But slowly the diet really started to grow and kind of take over, because at that time everyone was following a bodybuilding protocol. They were either eating like garbage, or they were eating, boiled chicken, steamed broccoli, and they were just suffering and absolutely hating it. And then they were killing themselves to cut weight. And that's what I'm probably most proud of, is stopping the guys from killing themselves in the sauna. We don't use saunas. We haven't used saunas in a decade in cutting weight. It's the worst possible thing that you can do. So
I know guys that like it. They get so superstitious and they train like that's how they do it. And I'm like, why would you do that? Like, that seems crazy to me. It seems it's not a great way to shed water either. It's like kind of like lazy, and to me, I'm like, I'd rather be on a bike with a sauna suit on or something like that, a bunch of Albaline and or whatever, like and not have to lose 40 pounds either. Like fucking, it's coming. Plan for that shit.
Yeah, we like to start our weight cut 52 weeks before the fight. That's kind of the goal over here.
So that being the case too, you don't get to. I mean, I guess you do get to. Are there athletes, and you don't have to name names, that you fucking say no to? Like, that have been like, hey, dude, I like your help. And you're like, I can see your work ethic, dude, and I just am busy.
Yeah.
Or is there like a vetting that you do? Is there a questionnaire where you're like, how willing are you? Because I would want to know, if I'm going to put my time into you, how deep you willing to swim?
So the athletes that we do decide, we have turned down quite a few athletes, not just in MMA, but a lot in MMA, that I think sometimes they just, I'm like a side piece. They just want me to stand next to them,
right?
To like act like they had worked hard to kind of kill their reputation.
Right. What?
That's funny. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of beyond me. I don't understand that, I guess. We had to struggle and argue today. My wife got on me today, like, hey, you better take some rest. You better, not go out there and go, balls to the wall. And I'm having this internal argument in my head, like, oh, it's rest day. I need to rest, but no, I want to go hard. Like, dude, I'm a racehorse, man. I want to run. Sometimes I need somebody to pull the reins back, and it's hard for me to do that myself. And so I guess I just can't relate to that.
Yeah.
I just can't relate to somebody not working hard. Like, this is an opportunity that we have. We're in this industry at this very special time in history, and we get to fight for a living. We get to do what we love to do. We get to go on vacation somewhere cool, and then we get to fight somebody, and then we get paid for it. Like, how do we not put everything into it that we can? I guess that's just I don't know.
The other side of it is, like, it seems like that's like the housewife at the spa or wherever at the regular gym that's like, well, I got a trainer so I can tell other people at the cocktail party I have a trainer. And it's like, that's what you're describing. And it's like, that's a different era of fighter too. It's guys that just see the lights or whatever. And it's like, you got to be in love with go ahead and train, and you got broken toes that you tape together. Go ahead and go, and your ribs out of place. Go ahead and go when you're too sick to move, but you're going to be in the room anyway, because you're at least going to let that practice burn in you and the hatred come up that you can't be moving right now, and you're going to fucking want it more when you get well again. Like, all that, like, that's important shit. Absolutely. And if you don't want it like that,
you're in the wrong game.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not an accountant.
Yeah.
And you need that, but you also need the people to tell you, hey, what's smart, because it's easy to overdo it, like big time. You know what? There's a lot of fighters that have that passion, that drive. You see it. You see these guys who are, perennial badasses. They're just nonstop, and You also see lots of people getting injured and overdoing it. So, I mean, you really got to strike the balance. And if you can't do that yourself, you have to have the people around you that can help you do that. They can be like, hey, nah, man, you need to chill. And that's really hard anymore. You got a lot of coaches and a lot of camps with this old school mentality. Go harder, grind it out, metal on metal. You know, if you're tired and you're beat up and you're beat down, go still do it. And sometimes there's something to be said for that. But, you know, when you're at the top level, the guys are tough. You know, the guys, they know how to fight. You know, really it's about maximizing their training procedure and their training protocol to get them to that fight at the optimum, optimum shape, optimum, performance ability. And that's really an emerging science. You know, I think that we do a pretty good job, you know, with the coaches and the people that I have around me with diet and with nutrition, with the biofeedback stuff that we're using to monitor our physiology. This is kind of next level stuff, but there's a very small percentage of people that are actually doing that. And so, like we talked about in the last time we did the podcast, you know, it's kind of finding the balance between that old school, just go hard, that you know, you got to be tougher, you got to work harder than the other guy. We got to find the balance between that and the scientific stuff, and kind of reconcile the two. I think to bring ourselves to the place where we need to be for the fights.
Yeah, and there's with the emerging science right now. I mean, we're heading into 2016. You think about everything that's going on in the world. I mean, the fact that I can FaceTime you and see you in real time and talk, right?
Right.
I mean, that right there is mind blowing.
Right.
10 years ago, couldn't even really fathom that. But what Carlos is talking about now, MMA is probably the last sport that hasn't evolved and used technology and tried and true science to elevate the athletes and to elevate the sport.
And also, it's different. I mean, you think even with our sports commissions and with the Nevada State Athletic Commission, this and that, like all those things are using combat sports as under this umbrella. So they don't even understand, or they didn't. It's emerging, as you say, but like they didn't even really understand what MMA was or where they've got. I mean, I remember I was in Florida and I was sitting next to Big John McCarthy's wife, and I go, who's the guy? Who's the ref? Because it was the first time I'd seen a ref that I didn't know for a long time. And she goes, oh, here's a guy. He's a boxing guy, and he was John was giving a seminar earlier with some tapes. This is his first time in a cage ever. He's never seen this before. I'm like, that's the guy keeping those guys safe. Because that's the guy that is to keep those guys safe, and he's not able. He's not even aware. Because I mean, you think back to the first time you got an armbar, you're like, I didn't even know I was in danger.
That's true.
You know, like you don't even know where, and let alone a third guy looking, he's not feeling it, and it's hard to pay attention anyway. Like, holy shit! So we are this brand new kind of thing in that way.
Yeah, and with all the science available, I mean, I think we're a little more progressive, and we kind of see and we embrace it in other aspects of our life. So we jump in and get all behind it.
Yeah,
there's a big resistance inside the community to truly embrace science. And I think I did an article with Damon Martin, who was with MMA Junkie at the time. Now he's with Fox Sports. And
he's a nice guy, huh? I like him.
He's out of Ohio too.
Yeah, is he?
I didn't
know that.
Great dude.
Yeah,
great guy. He's been in the game a long time. You know, he's a nerd in all the cool ways that you can be, just intelligent. Rad. He can talk about multitude of subjects, and he kind of saw what I was doing back in those days. He's like, because he was hearing from the other athletes that something different is going on, and I had made the point that, you know, this is the emerging skill set inside mixed martial arts. You know, we have boxing and grappling and wrestling and, you know, the other specific skill sets. I said, but the strength and conditioning, the periodization, the peaking, this is the emerging skill set that athletes need to pay attention to now to advance the other skill sets. And too many teams, they push it to the back burner. They push the nutritionist, dietitian, strength coach,
so it's got to become a lifestyle.
It has to be.
You know, it has to be.
That's the flaw. And you see so
like
many
when you
guys.
Talk about we get a guy ready 52 weeks before the match.
That's where it starts.
Like, and if you're not already ready, you're not technically getting more sound. You're just losing weight and trying to get into shape.
Yep.
And that's a bullshit way to spend your camp.
Yep. You've wasted, 49 weeks of getting better, of adding new skills, of prehabbing, of making your body more resilient to injury, of increasing speed, flexibility, mobility, absolute strength output, ring generalship and awareness. You've lost that ability because you're at the bar, you're not doing the right things, you're training too hard too often, so then you need a long break, your central nervous system isn't responding, so you're not retaining the information that the highly skilled coaches are trying to put into you. You're just a tough dude.
How much do you see that now, where there's like I don't know, I never asked, but like there's got to be somebody that you look to in your life, like Seeger probably for one, but other people that are like, hey, reel it in, dummy. We're gonna fucking take a rest day today and really fucking just go play video games or something, or go to the movies or whatever, right? Like, but are there? And there's probably people at the gym like that. I don't know if like Greg or Mike or somebody, but like somebody or Brandon is like, hey, why don't you take a rest today or whatever? But do you have a voice like that? That's that voice for you, that or is it accumulation of several people?
Mainly it's my wife, and that's why I have such a hard time listening to it. It's like my inner voice and then my wife, and
it's got to be hard to separate your professional and personal life.
And I have issues with both of those voices.
Right. Yeah.
So I also have my strength and conditioning coach, who is really kind of monitoring.
He's watching the body and the drive more.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah. So, and he's really helping. We do a lot of periodization, and then he's monitoring. Okay, you went really intense today. Let's back it off. Let's maybe do some.
And does he suggest hey, maybe you don't grapple tonight. Maybe you just do this, or like something like all that.
Yeah, maybe some recovery.
Cool.
Maybe a little bit of cardio.
It's hard to be brave, I think, as a coach, to come out and say it's not really my place, and it's his whole fucking life. It's not like I have a hobbyist here. I mean, you've got to really know your shit. You've got to become a specialized expert
for sure, and you have to have trust between you and the coach to have them make those decisions, and I do. I've been with these guys, and I trust the people that are around me. So I feel fortunate. I feel like I've surrounded myself with great people in general on a lot of different levels, but pure professionals, people who know they know what the hell they're doing.
Right. What do you find that's the case in a lot of gyms, that voice is like somebody that people have more and more, or do you think that's like an anomaly and most people are still in this kind of outdated, prehistoric, like, let's just go and I'll be in your corner on game day?
Exactly.
Is that kind of mostly what it is? It's kind of an advanced topic that we're talking about in that way.
It's
novel, at least. I mean, it's not something that
very few gyms are doing what Carlos is doing, and even Carlos, I think, is the rarity inside his own gym.
Absolutely, I would say that too.
And with the athletes that I work with, and it's a handful. It's 6 to 8 MMA fighters a year, a couple CrossFit on the side. And then
now, who are your guys?
So we have Carlos, we have Ronda Rousey, we have Thiago Alves, we have Mirsad Bektik, we have Manny Gambirian, Stephen Ray over in the UK, and Jocelyn Leibarger, who just signed with the UFC. We've been with her for a couple of years. So we kind of keep the athletes. We have we like to keep like 3 A-level, which are kind of main event athletes at Carlos and Ronda, Thiago's level, and then we have kind of the B level, which is like not in their skill set, but just in their placement, because it's different time. We have the 5-rounders, I'll say, and then we have the 3-rounders, and then we have the developing fighters.
How do you, as a coach in all this, and or what have you seen, I guess, because you're in a more intimate spot than any reporter is, than anybody that's looking at it, than anybody that's running any shows. Like, you're in a very intimate spot with these guys. Yeah. And so there's guys for sure that you've known that have been on supplements of whatever kind that maybe are illegal now. And in that kind of way, like, the one thing that I heard was so fucking, it was the only real smart cogent argument I heard about it that like really rang true, was when Ronda said something to the effect of, if girls want to take that stuff, and they can't now because they're tested, they know they're not good enough. Yeah. Like they already, they've already psychologically, and we saw it with Pride when I saw guys that were just savages came over and got mopped up by dudes that coming up, like, Pride was always like, those were the premier guys. Then there was the UFC. Yeah. And now there was this absorption, and the guys came over, and they were not, like, Keith Haring had a horrible first fight. I think it was Nogueira that he fought, and it looked awful. Like it was all, and I was like, how much is the confidence then? And that Ronda's comment then years later rang true to those kinds of original fights when I saw pride get absorbed. And I'm wondering, is there a way, or what do you do to then help an athlete get his confidence back, you know?
I try and instill.
Or is that a thing even? Am I just making that up?
No, it absolutely is a thing. And we've seen it, you know, I've seen it firsthand with athletes that, you know, part of our agreement with the athletes is that they cannot do anything that's outside of sanctioning rules. They cannot do anything illegal.
It's too much of a problem.
It's too much of a problem. And it's contrary to what we do as a business. We're here to increase their health and longevity first and foremost. Winning world titles and making money is actually secondary to health and fitness. So we can't be on board with an athlete that's doing something contrary to their health. So that's kind of, you know, up clear, you know, first and foremost. And then the athletes that are or had at one point, we help them transition off through a holistic approach. We let them know that food in itself is as performance enhancing as anything else. A structured, intelligent periodization program. Look at this man.
Jesus Christ.
Great example.
Put those away.
So an intelligent periodization program will eradicate the need for many of the PEDs that are out there because they just allow athletes to train harder.
Psychologically, like, what's the turnaround for guys then with that, where they're like, fuck, I'm not, you know, like there was a bodybuilder trainer that I knew, and he was like, you know, he goes, once you're Superman, nobody likes to go back to being Clark Kent.
That's very true of the powerlifting.
How do you get Clark Kent to believe he's Superman again? You know, because you need that confidence, that savagery, if you're going to go and get after it.
What we try and do is we reset our goal system, and we set small attainable goals each day to regain confidence, to build confidence, and slowly the athlete's body will begin to respond, and they're able to start doing things. We'll do a treadmill test. So all of a sudden we can test their cardiac output, you know, see how they're able to run. And within a short period of time, they're able to match and exceed the numbers through periodization when they were just getting on and going as hard as they could.
And so the psychological thing is really just building them back up and then getting them in and going, well, the history of today shows that you're succeeding and exceeding where you were, even, or whatever.
How's your body feel?
Then do you have conversations about that with them?
And very, you know, in-depth heart-to-heart conversations.
I think the communication of your job has got to be fucking through the roof, and nobody knows how to communicate very well. I mean, that's why we're all in successive relationships over and over and over again and all that shit. It's like, it's a crazy thing. And then it's got to be hard too with an athlete that's maybe not used to communicating. And then you're like, we got to do it over phone or this or that, or you're not divulging everything. What the fuck, dude? How can I help you if you're holding out on? Like, that's got to be a huge factor for you.
Dead on, which is why I come out. I spend time. I live with the athlete. I see their family. You know, I kind of breathe their air, and we develop that trust. So either they trust me or don't. And if they don't trust me, well, then I'm out. God bless you. But it won't work. So, you know, hopefully that they do.
Yeah. Dolce and I kind of had built a relationship 2014. My knee was hurt. We were doing some presentations at some military bases where we were going out and we were talking to Air Force guys, reservists, you know, different branches of the military about health and nutrition and holistic living, because, you know, that's a big, just like it is with the rest of the country, that's a big issue in the military. And you know, so we clicked. We were on the same page. We have very similar philosophies on, you know, diet, nutrition, overall wellness, performance, and you know, and he hadn't come out and worked with me on a camp since then. So this is the first time. So had he come to my house and all that shit that I was talking about, you know, about how I eat and everything, and then he opens my pantry and sees that it's all bullshit. Right. I mean, he's able to actually come out and kind of fact check. Oh, you know, he says one thing, but he's living this other way, and that
would almost be a thing where I would be like, I can't work with you, dude. You know what I mean? Because on game day, you're going to look like an asshole. Like you, Mike Dolce, are going to look like, oh, you didn't get the fight, because everybody's looking to avert response. Like, that's all I've always said. Like, I don't need shit except a good scapegoat in my life, and I'm fine. If I got somebody to blame for the wrecks, and that's kind of, you got to get used like that as a coach too, in a way.
And that bothers me. That's of anything really in the sport, people pawning off responsibility. Ultimately, you're the master of your destiny. You got to be your guy. You know, in a sense, you're your head coach, and you step out there, and that's kind of the double-edged sword of fighting. You win, and you have this glorious highlight reel knockout or finish. You get all the glory. But conversely, if it doesn't go well, and you're the one on the other side of that knockout, you have all, you're really the one to blame. So when guys try to pawn off responsibility and not accept accept responsibility for it, it just bothers me. We're grown ass men. You gotta be accountable for something.
Yeah, and we're all accountable. What I say is the athlete is Bill Gates. I call it the Microsoft model, just for ease of understanding. That is the CEO, the owner of the company. They bring in a team of highly skilled professionals to build the keyboard, build the monitor, build the mouse, build the software. And us as department heads, we need to work with each other and make sure that each of our products fits very well. And then we deliver that to the boss and say, here's what we have. What do you think? Yes or no? And then the boss can veto that. No, I don't like that. I'm going to do that. I want to see something different instead. And we have to go back to the lab and recreate what the boss needs because they know intuitively. So it's Carlos's job and the owner's job to manage the staff, but I know that I'm the best in the world in what I do specifically. Now, I will not walk on the mat and teach Wink's job or Greg's job and say, hey, I want to see you throw a combo. Even though I have an opinion because I've done a little bit, that is not my skill set. That's not why I'm here. I will say, hey, maybe I'll whisper in the coach's ear if I see something just as a member of the team, as we should in meetings, in department head meetings. You see that all the time in corporations. We have these conversations. Coach might say, hey, man, he's looking a little heavy. He's looking a little light. His energy was a little low or, something. He wasn't sweating. He was sweating. I love that feedback from coaches because that can make me look at the data and we can go back and make sure that we're hitting, our levels of perfection. But, when the athletes complain, I say we live and die and win and lose as a team. So everybody on board the team, we win together and we lose together, and I will stand by my athlete through everything. But it does suck whether it's myself that you kind of see in the public sometimes. We have a decent name in the industry, so we'll get thrown under the bus either just by the trolls in the forums or by writers that are looking for clickbait articles. They'll just throw our name up there, they'll get clicks out of it. Or other coaches that get thrown under the bus. Ultimately, it's the team because each one of us has input. We can say, hey, this they're grappling too much. They're not striking enough. Coach, what do you think about this? And then go to the athlete. So as you said before, and Carlos said, ultimately it does rest on the athlete as the owner, but each of us are involved. And I say it's the company.
You give tools. And if he picks up the tools, that's up to him. And if he doesn't pick up the tools, you're kind of like, why am I even hired as a department head or whatever? Yeah. It's got to be that kind of a...
And I've had that situation quite a few times. Why am I even here? Like, what do you... Like, why... Like, don't pay me. Like, I need to go. I want to work with... And we turned down, a very high-level main event, 5-round fight to work with for, big dollars to work with a kid on the undercard that you've never heard of. Because I knew this young man was going to listen and do everything that we said, and the main eventer was not. They just were throwing money. It was more for the ego. Right. They kind of lived a lifestyle contrary to what we already were doing. It wasn't going to fit. Man.
That's hard. That whole thing about living a country, like it's kind of like I think it's the next evolution of sport too. In this way of like, if you're living a lifestyle that's contrary to what the goals, like everybody in the UFC, if they got the same goal, everybody's got that same goal. And if you're not living a lifestyle that begets that goal, fuck, man, you're done. That's that's some dinosaur shit. Yeah. Like, I mean, I really think that, like, when you look at, you look at Carlos or you look at Holly or you look at a lot of these athletes, Cowboy, any time of the year, if you take a picture of them, they look basically the same as any other time of the year. And then you see these people and they're like, oh, they're off season. And you see these pictures that are like fucking crazy. It looked like some before and after shit from like Flex magazine back in the day or something. and you're like, how is that even the same human? And like, and why would you want to start from such a regressed point if this is really your passion? And like, it's the one thing too I think is interesting, man, is like, we have these passions or people get glimpses of them, and then allowing that passion to consume you to where it really becomes you and it takes over your whole life. that is an uncommon thing, you know. That's a different kind of athlete, I think, and that's a different kind of. I think it becomes. I don't know. Stop me if I get weird, but it becomes like a real spiritual component of the thing, of like a faith, you know, in the universe, a faith that, like, whether that's God or whatever you call that thing, that like it's gonna be okay if I just fucking give myself and abandon myself to this power of this love in my heart, of this passion, and like if I let that guide me, maybe that's the fucking best thing, you know, because we've got all these ideas and all these, like, stay in this lane and things will be good, you'll get this result, and we look at that like through our parents or through people we know, and we go, maybe that's not true. And so, like, what is this other thing? And I think that really speaks to it a lot. And it doesn't have to just be a fighting, but like Alan Watts talks about that a lot. He's a fucking one of my favorite philosopher, teacher kind of guys. And he talks about whatever it is that you love, like you were saying, somebody else will love it too. Yeah. And you just keep doing that thing, and that will grow, and money will take care of itself. Yeah. And you've got to kind of at some point live as if money is no object. Yeah. And because otherwise passion won't overtake you. You'll curtail passion, and you'll be a fucking traitor. You'll belittle your passions because you think you know better. Yeah. And your fucking psyche is maybe not your friend all the time. And that's the weird thing about being a human, is that you're not always on your own side. What the fuck? Yeah. You know, like, that's crazy.
Yeah. So when I did accept the job at Team Quest, I left my six-figure income, moved my wife across the country. We had one vehicle, the whole deal, and pull into Portland and get the phone call from the owner of the gym. It says, hey, listen, we can't afford to pay you the salary, which was like 20% of the previous salary I was making. We can't afford to pay you, but don't worry, we still got a job for you. I'm thinking, oh, fuck. Walk into the gym 6 a.m. the next morning, a mop bucket sitting on the mat. And they said, yeah, we just need you to open the gym from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., pay you minimum wage, which is $8 an hour before taxes. So, and I would make $32 a day before taxes to work from 6 to 10. And then from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., I would coach 40 of the world's greatest athletes literally for free. I made $14,000 that
Everybody
year.
I know that I love that's doing great shit, they do shit for free.
For free.
Everything they do is for fun and for free. Let's fucking get it, and let's see where it goes. And great shit happens.
It was, like you said, it was my passion. Now, I had to ride my bike because we only had one vehicle to do this. So I'm on my bike at 4:45 in the morning, riding to go clean the dirtiest gym I had ever seen. Scrub toilets in the freezing cold of Portland, Oregon. Yeah. So those in the Pacific Northwest know what I'm talking about. February in Pacific Northwest, freeze my ass off in that cold, sleety rain.
Tell me about struggle.
And
fucking
then
whatever. Yeah.
9:30 at night, I had to get back on this bike and ride home. Exhausted after that long ass day. Now my wife is working, an hour and a half away as the overnight editor on some podunk newspaper. We're not even seeing each other, but it was passion. So you take that, and I didn't complain. I remember sometimes making that bike ride. It's just exhausted, and I was training with the athletes too. So I'm doing pro practice.
It's a beautiful thing too, because it's like that kind of faith with going, I've got this passion, I need it to take root. I don't know if it will.
Don't know.
Might not. There's no guarantee. I'm just here for fucking love of the game. Those are the only people I fuck with, man.
Yep. I knew
the best.
I could always go swing a hammer. I could always provide for my family. I could always work. I was never scared of working, but this was my passion, and I'm going to give this a go and work that entire year, and then started gaining a little traction, more traction, more traction. Now here I am talking to Tait Fletcher at the Caveman Coffee headquarters, sitting next to Mr. Carlos Condit on the eve of winning a world title. It's fucking awesome. So chase your passion. Get out there, get it done. Now's the time. Like, life is as short or as long as you want it to be, and that's based upon experiences.
It's like, and Alan Watts says in this thing, he goes, if you're not doing a thing that you love, then you're just paying to have a life that you're miserable at, to work more to have a longer life that's more like, it's like, what are you fucking doing? And I always look at it like Keith always talking about seek death. And I'm always like, you're dead right now in this moment. If it's a wrap right now, like, if your relationship is over, if you're like, I know that I'm holding this back and I don't really want to say it because they've got a different value, or whatever the thing is that is in you, you're already dead. The relationship's already over. You're already broken up. The thing is already done. Whatever the thing is, then you're free. If that's really the truth, if you're like I met with this friend of mine, and she's like, I know me and my boyfriend are going to break up after the holidays, but I already bought the plane ticket, so we're going to wait and talk about it later. And it's this one fundamental thing that she likes, that she's not sure if he likes or would be into or whatever. And I'm like, you got to just say it. If you're already broken up in the future, like if you can already see the end of it, there's no threat at all in speaking what the truth is about it. You got to live that full passionate life because what? Because somebody might snicker, or because and that's the weird place that MMA athletes are for sure. Is that I just got somebody else made another hate account for me the other day, but there's that kind of shit that's out there. Is like nobody's more accessible to the fans than you. You know what I mean? It's like that's the thing, or like you talk about clickbait articles, like, oh, your name's big in there. It's like you learn. I mean, there's no football players that deal with hate like people in the MMA industry. There's nobody like that,
and they're insulated. They have this buffer between them and the fans and all that, and we don't, man. We're right there, which I think is a big part of the popularity of the sport because we're accessible. And
you're working right to the edge of your fucking psyche, the fabric of it's like, I remember Van Arsdale saying, you guys think you got a long time to work at this? He says, I want you to consider that somebody is fucking demanding to get better right now today. And it's like, when you're working to the end of your abilities like that, and then all it takes is one 12-year-old to fucking go, I might as well kill myself. Fuck this. Because you are that accessible. There is no insulation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a different kind of thing. Yeah, we're right on the edge in a lot of respects. Whether it's being in the public eye, or whether it's when you're out there and you're fighting and it's like it's go time. It's like you're walking a damn tightrope without a freaking safety net. There's no shin guards. This person is trying to it's like
full elbow strikes, like it's all coming. It's not like training.
It's extreme. It is on the edge, and I think that is what a lot of fighters are pursuing, and it's that it's that adrenaline rush. It's that pushing yourself to the edge. I think we got in this conversation last time we talked. It's really pushing yourself to the edge and beyond, and
in order to set yourself free,
and see what the fuck you're made out of. Like you don't know until you don't know where your boundary is until you find it, or until you go over it.
I always thought that everybody's like, oh, I would do this and that, or I would do that and this or whatever. And I grew up kind of a criminal, and I was like, I don't know who you are until you get arrested. I don't know if you're gonna snitch on us all until and so it's like until early on, I was always like, unless you're at the extreme point, you don't know how you would react to whatever. And so then I started going. Especially after I cleaned my life up, I go, you got to put yourself on the edge and see who you are. And that's what the whole thing of getting in the cage for me was. That it wasn't about making a living or anything. It was like, I want to see who you are under this kind of pressure, who you are now. Mm-hmm. Those were the important things, I think, because it was all about like you say, you speak about being a martial artist a lot. I think it's about the formation of a character as a man. It's I want to find out who I am under these different pressures.
Yeah, and that happens in fighting, and that happens in pursuit of the UFC title belt, but it happens in other respects of my life. I'm not interested in shit that's not going to make me grow.
Did you ever think you'd be fighting for a UFC title belt? I mean, you just said that, and that just struck me as such a crazy thing. That's a crazy thing, Carlos. That's fucking crazy, dude. That's a crazy thing.
Yeah. I had this dream when I was a kid that I would do something with martial arts. I just had, and I didn't even do martial arts as a kid. I wrestled,
right.
But
that's like you might as well play football, right? First, that doesn't seem like a martial arts. It's so I don't know.
Yeah, even though it is,
it totally is. I don't know why I have that thought, but we do have this conception.
Wrestling's a combat sport, just like karate or anything.
More so, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know. I just had this dream that I would do something with martial arts. Literally, I had these dreams that I would do, almost like these premonitions that I would be.
So when's the time when you pinch yourself and you go, holy fuck, if I beat this next guy, that could happen.
It was a gradual progression. I mean, you know how it was. We were fighting in these little podunk casinos. The auditorium held 250 or 400 people.
You could touch the ceiling because the cage is elevated. So they're like, don't climb up on the thing because you would bust out the ceiling tiles, type shit.
Yeah. So and the sport and the popularity and everything just progressed so damn quickly. After The Ultimate Fighter, this thing caught on. People saw what it was.
That became possible. When Diego went on that show, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, well, and I think a big part of the show was not only showing the sport, but showing the people who are doing the sport, showing kind of the behind the scenes of what this is. And not everybody can go out there and put their lives and everything on the line and pursue their passion, but we are. And I think that's a big part of why the sport caught on. You got these young guys, and a lot of these dudes are just maybe living in their car, maybe don't have a lot of responsibility or whatever, but they are dedicating their lives to do it, to this. They're putting their health, they're putting their livelihood, they're putting all this stuff on the line. I think people in a way connect with that or admire or want to be that way. They see a little bit of themselves or what they would like to be in that.
Sure. Yeah.
And so
I think it's an archetypal kind of deal. Like you see these, like a warrior archetype is a very popular thing to like believe that you are. And so you see these different things of a savior or a brother or in people. I think they can all. That's a universal resonance. I think in people's souls that they can feel that a little bit.
Yeah, because I think it's within us all. It's do we have the courage to go out there and try to find it? And that's a hard thing.
And then it's hard with all the other opportunities that come up because there's this and that, and you're like, do I stay towards the school because this seems better? I mean, one of my homeboys from Michigan, he was like, he got a call, he's broke, he doesn't have anything going on, and he's like, they're like, hey, you can come back and you can work for General Motors. I got a job on the line, and dude, that's a good ass job. Like you get benefits and like the whole thing,
It's consistent,
and he's there and he doesn't have anything. And he was up in Colorado, and he's like, I'm going to try this other thing. And fucking he did, and he started a roofing company, and, he makes a couple $1 million a year or whatever, and he got an 8th grade education. But he was just like, I just know that, I think it's sometimes you know what you don't want. You're like, I don't know, that seems like common and normal, and it seems like I could do that, but like maybe there's something else, and I don't know what the fuck that is that gets inside some people, but like you see the greatest stuff grow out of that kind of thing where they're like, no, this would be completely agreeable, I'd completely understand why you would do that, that seems safe, it seems this and that, this whole other thing's a question mark, and you go here? That doesn't even seem like rational, but like people that do it, man, you see crazy shit happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, so to answer your question about the fighting for the UFC title and
then you end up there.
I think when I started getting some checks that I could actually live off of, when I was like, wow, I can pay rent,
right,
and like buy stuff and not have to have these
not worried till the next one comes.
Yeah, not have to have these side jobs where I'm getting paid cash under the table to throw guys out of bars, and that was kind of at 21 years old, I got the WEC title. I'm getting a check that I could actually live off of. This is something that it's actually a career. And I was somewhat surprised. My parents were,
they had to be blown away.
They were pleasantly surprised that, hey, this is actually going somewhere.
God, I thought he was just a loser this whole time. Apparently he got a new car. I don't know.
Yeah, they thought that it was maybe a phase. They knew I was into it, but they thought it was a phase until I ended up getting a real job, and this would phase out. And
everybody in my life too, they're like, this is never going to pan out. Yeah,
and
same shit.
And this is how it is for now, and this is where I've gone in my life and to this point, and this will be a kind of a stepping stone to where I'll go, next.
Right.
This is just one period in my life, and I'm proud of it, and I've loved it. I've loved every second of it, and it's been awesome. But this is one thing, and I'm proud that I've fucking put everything that I have into this.
Yeah.
Like I could fucking walk away tomorrow and be like, you know what? I'm really fucking proud of that. I still have more. I still have more to chew on.
Yeah.
I still got more, and that's just a bonus. I never thought that this would be something that I would be doing for a living, making a good living, supporting family. This is crazy.
It's a huge thing, dude. What you just said, like when you get really proud of something, when you do something you're super stoked about, and you're like, I never thought I'd be alive still right now. Like everything, literally everything, is a bonus after a certain point. And when you do that thing that you're like, wow, that was dope. I'd be happy right now if this ended. After that, everything's a bonus. Everything, you're just living on grace. And when you're able to live like that, I feel like it's like you live in a more free way. And then I feel like when you're living more free, you have more trust and faith in the universe. And then I feel like when you have more faith and trust in the universe, the more the fucking universe gets in collusion with whatever you're doing, and you just start to win more. It's fucking wild. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But there's something going on out there. I don't know what it is.
There's something going on. And when you get out of the way and you kind of just go with, sometimes that gut instinct is something that you need to listen to and go with. And when you get out of your own way and you let kind of all this bullshit, fear and greed or what ego, all this stuff, you let that get in the way, you're blocking yourself off from the true your true purpose, your true path, and
the true ability to shine for who you're supposed to be.
Yeah, who you are.
Now, I got another question, and that is, when you look at dudes like Conor McGregor comes to mind, and you see about there's an explosion into fame, really, right? And I don't know if he's like the second most highly paid guy right now, which it seems like I would be insulted if I were you. I'm not going to speak for you, but it's like here's a new guy that's and good on him. I'm glad for that, but that's a choice, of course, and how he carries himself and how he presents himself and all that kind of stuff. And I guess what my question isn't about him. I think he's great, but I think the whole thing about this turning from athleticism, which it really purely was for a while, and then somehow, and it wasn't even with the first Tough Show, but it was like years down the road, it really became more of an entertainer's kind of business. And I think maybe the first time I felt that was you're watching Chuck, who's a great wrestler, but he's fucking knocking everybody out, and then everybody is going, we need to knock people out. Like, even if you're a great grappler, nobody's trying to ground and pound anybody. People are like, I need to get good at this, So even if you could finish guys on the ground, people were demanding. Like, nobody's ever seen Keith Jardine on the ground, and he's a motherfucker on the ground. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of like the thing. And so that was more entertainment based. And then you see Brock Lesnar come in and hugely entertainment based. And so at a certain point, you just kind of fucking dipped out of that whole conversation, and you're kind of like, I'm just going to be doing my thing, working hard over here. And is that a conscious choice that you make, or do you feel like there's just some guys that are more entertaining than others? And because there's nobody more entertaining when, like I was telling you the other day, when you and Nick Diaz walk out, I'm like, there's no hate left in the world because it's all inside those two guys right now. They've absorbed all the hate from the world, and it's about to come out of their knuckles. And that kind of energy that you bring, there's nobody more entertaining to watch fucking perform. But there's this whole other aspect where the 3 months where you're not fighting, that these other guys are fucking steady entertaining, and now the UFC's really paying for them to entertain. And what do you think about all that shit, and how has that changed life?
Well, for me personally, I just got to be myself.
Right.
I just got to be genuine, and I'm not that, kind of bombastic personality that's out there doing that. But you want to sit down and talk about all kinds of crazy shit. Yeah. I mean, I'm down for that, and that is me. That's who I am. But I'm not that other guy, and it seems like it's working for them, so that's great. Yeah. But what I've been doing is working for me, and I just got to be true to that. Yeah. I'm not trying to be anything other than who I am, and I think that resonates in itself. Maybe it's not. I think some of these other guys, you mentioned Brock Lesnar. I mean, it was fast, it was furious, but it was a little bit of a flash in the pan kind of thing. Boom. Yep. And
it doesn't have any legs.
It doesn't have a whole. Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of longevity. So, I'm just doing me.
It's kind of what I think about like Rogan and his career in that way is it's slow. It's not a huge thing. And then I look at Dane Cook, who had a long career before, but then when he blew up, it was huge for a few years, and then nobody even knows who I'm talking about right now. You know what I mean? And whereas Joe is a slower growth, all the way up, but that'll last forever just because he's only doing him. And with comedy, what happens, I think, for guys is that, I know Comedy Central's hey, get an hour special, and then the HBO wants an hour special, and that's all within a year. And all those good comics are if you're really good and you write all the time, it takes a year and a half, 2 years to get 50 minutes of material, and you've got to work that out, and you've got to suck on stage a bunch, and you've got to do it and so to have 2 or 3 shows within a year, it's now you're reading everybody else's material, and it's not genuine. and like that reads, and then all of a sudden you're just gone. And I think there's a real testimonial to like how you're doing it, and it's also interesting. It's like Ronda was very much like a more of a Conor-ish kind of thing, and like Holly's completely more of a Carlos kind of thing, and it's like without the one, there kind of can't be the other either in a way,
And I feel like I feel like Ronda is being herself. I
think so too. Absolutely. I don't think it's a show.
Yeah. And I respect that. Everybody. That's the great thing about MMA.
Yeah, man. I don't need my athlete to fit a fucking template.
Yeah, no.
I like all the flavors.
There's
man.
all different types of personalities, and there's so many different people from so many different walks of life and background, and that's why our sport can cross over to all these different markets, these foreign markets.
Yep.
They try to bring NFL and NBA to Asia, and it just didn't click. Culturally, it didn't click. For one, it's just not something that they grew up with.
And it's not innately human.
It's true.
God damn it.
Yeah.
It's fucking not. Let's admit that.
Yep.
If you fuck me up in basketball, awesome. Let's get some. You want to scrap? We can see how it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you didn't kick my ass. I know we use that vernacular a lot, but let's stop it. Somebody blows a whistle and we all quit. So cut it out. That's not really true. And like I see it when like now's the holiday time. Go to your families. Go see some little kids. How do they play? They wrestle. They like to get at, it's like that's innately human. This is a human expression. And like we said, archetypes, everybody's got it. And so that's transcendent everywhere. Like that thing translates wherever. You're not going to get cricket to go over in South Africa or wherever, but you're going to get, everybody understands a scrap.
Yep.
Everybody knows what that's like.
Yep.
It's cool, man.
Fighting and human combat, physical combat transcends cultural boundaries, transcends socio-political, economic boundaries. Rich guys like to watch it, poor guys like to watch it, everybody in between.
Women like to watch it, all of it.
Absolutely. And so and personality wise, because we're accessible and people can connect with us, people find the fighters that they connect with. And find the fighters that kind of represent who they are. Maybe a fighting style, you're like, oh, I like that guy no matter what, even if he's kind of seems like a douche.
Yeah, there's only some guys I like to hang out with. Like I have the benefit, like you, like of knowing a bunch of guys, and there's dudes I'm like, I could spend weeks with that guy or whatever, like rad. But even thinking about it, there's not one guy that I know that fights that I don't like as a fighter. Like there one guy I thought, man, Alistair is like a fucking, I used to think like, he just seems some way I didn't like, and like I'm like, and then I'd heard about practice, I'd heard just gossip, and then in reality, everybody I know that knows him, and they're like, he's the best guy ever. Now I'm like such a huge fan. I'm like, so the one guy that I thought maybe I didn't like, I was completely fucking wrong. You know what I mean? And it's like that's the huge thing too, that ability to fucking be wrong, and like. So it's so important to not know too much. God damn.
Yeah, and Mike, from a coaching standpoint, deals with all these personalities.
Oh God, I can't even imagine.
And has to
the juggling.
Kind of figure it out, and the dynamics between different personalities.
Can't be honest with this guy too much. Can be fully disclosed with this guy. Like it's all different. What about too? Like. That ability to be wrong. Like, how much have you learned? You've been in the business a long fucking time, but even just since you've been like the last 6 years, how much stock do you put in, like knowing what you know in a way, and then how much do you go, there's room to grow here? Because how many times have you found out more and you gone, I'm fucking wrong about that, I want to do a different training protocol? And then how much is your ego assaulted because you're like, I'm on Front Street, everybody's watching,
sure,
and now I'm the expert and I'm going to say I was wrong?
Yeah.
Like that's got to be hard as fuck, man. But you walk that line, dude.
Yeah, and it's a matter of framing. So what we do, and I've done a great job since the beginning, is I keep immaculate records. I have notebooks filled with everything my athletes have eaten, their training protocols, what their wake-up weights were, bowel movements with some of the athletes. And what I say is I have Petri dishes.
You ever weigh them? You ever weigh the bowel movements?
I haven't yet, but
I always think about it. I weigh myself before I take a dump, and then after, like when I train, I would do that. Like you've done that too, yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, we've all done that.
Yeah, okay.
We've all done that. So we have this data system, so I can look back and I can see what each individual athlete has done over the course of our career together, but also I can extrapolate that against what other athletes have done. So like every weekend, every month, we have elite athletes competing inside this world of mixed martial arts. And I could see what worked for Vitor Belfort back in 2009, 2010, 2011, or Chael Sonnen back in 05, 06, 07, or Carlos in 15 to 16. So we can look at all that. We can look at the protocols, and every time we do it, we get better. Every weekend that we're cutting weight, rehydrating, and competing,
So what it sounds like you're saying to me is that you put thought into what your job is.
We actually put thought into it.
Weird.
And it's funny because people, they try and throw this bro science title.
No, everybody, like, that's the thing. That's what I'm speaking to, is that everybody thinks they're like, oh, I could do that.
I could do that. No, I have 2 dietitians like sitting in my office right now that they break Carlos had a question yesterday about bone marrow. So, I don't know that. And I shot off Samantha, say, hey, tell me what you know about bone marrow. Like, pull up the data. So it's on my phone right now.
I want to learn more about it because I love that shit. I feel like that's the nourishment of the gods right
He
there.
has this he made this tea yesterday.
I think it's the closest thing to like stem cell therapy that you could do for your body.
Okay.
As far as getting original components back into your gut health
Yep.
and your skin, everything, man. The vibrance of your brain, all that stuff, man. I know only a little about it, but I'm a huge fan.
Dude, get his recipe. It is
all right.
It is
all
bomb.
right.
So what we do, it's all data driven. It's all science driven. I mean, we observe the scientific method with every athlete that we work with consistently because we have all this data from previous work together. So we have all these experiments around the world for decades now. So what we're doing with Carlos is as a result of all that experience that we've had. So as we continue forward, so are we wrong? I won't say we're wrong, but I say we're always learning, always evolving. We are always getting better, but also we've never had an athlete miss weight.
You learn like what works, this doesn't serve us anymore, whatever, and move on.
It's all enhanced. It's just like any other skill set or technique. We're constantly evolving, and this will never be perfect. It'll never be best, but it will always get better. And as we continue, like what I do now as compared to what we did 2 years ago or 5 years ago, it's so far advanced, which is mind blowing. I look back in like 5 years ago, like I can't believe we were only we were only eating a certain amount of calories. Now we're eating more and more and more, and we're just working.
We never understood what macronutrients really did.
No.
Like what different, we didn't really understand any of that. We didn't understand anything. Like there was no I mean, I don't know that we didn't understand, but when I say we, I'm like cumulatively, nobody, literally fucking nobody is having that discussion. Even 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it's like you couldn't hear that whispered somewhere. And if somebody did, it would almost be like heresy. Like they'd be like, whatever, you're thinking too much about it. You know?
That's where we've evolved right now. We're all micro-based. It's the micronutrients. Every meal plan that we come up with, we start with the micros as a foundation. And it's funny that the macro cult kind of we butt heads a little bit because they're popping Pop-Tarts and eating ice cream and donuts.
So crazy. Nobody takes into like account. That's like old school zone diet, right?
Exactly.
And in the zone where they're like, yeah, as long as it's these macros, it'll be fine. It's like, no, you're telling me that the quality of that food doesn't matter? Like that a Pop-Tart is the same nourishment value as a navel orange?
Yeah.
That's fucking lunacy.
Yeah. So they're walking around with extreme micronutrient deficiencies, though their macros are on track. So from a cosmetic standpoint, they might...
All the bitches that put out there, if it fits in my macros and all that kind of talk, all those broads are like 19 to 23. Good, bitch. I'll see you when you're 27 and you're chubby as... Go ahead and wear that half shirt again. I fucking dare you.
Exactly.
You're going to look like an ogre.
Yep.
Wrinkle.
You're going to look like me. Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see.
It's the crazy turns. It's cool that there's new conversations like that happening.
Yeah.
And like bone broth will be the new thing. And that, the coolest thing I think about bone broth is people talk about Caveman Coffee and they go, hey, how do you want to be like a Starbucks or Pete's or something? And I'm like, I'm not really interested in that. And they're like, what if it got so big that the farm that you guys have wouldn't produce any more beans or whatever? I'm like, I don't know. I feel like it would be cool if we had a template that I could go, hey, dude, you could do this too if you have your own. Like I don't need everything. I just want to be a part of something cool. Like I don't want everything, and that becomes part of the thing. And like bone broth is cool in that way that it's like it's so nourishing and so enriching, and I can't say enough good things about it. And also instantaneous results of mood and exuberance and dude, it's fucking, you feel nourished, man. But Coca-Cola can't bottle that. You can't fucking send that. You know what I mean? It's like there's that's not happening.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that is completely community based. That like has to be there. It has an expiration point, you know, and that's like the beginning point of shopping for people. When people are like, "Hey, how do I start eating better?" I'm like, only shop in the perimeter. All the shit that'll last forever is in the middle. And you don't need any of that in your body. All the stuff that is perishable, they bring it in and out because that's the easiest place to get to it. And fucking only eat that shit. And if you do that, you're for sure your weight and your way you are in life will change dramatically. And then we can have a conversation after that, you know?
Absolutely.
But like that stuff about perishable stuff is so huge in that way, I think. And I love the idea of bone broth in that way because you really have to, like, you better drink it within 4 days or something of making it, of roasting your bones and doing all that shit. Mm-hmm. So you become an expert at it.
You know,
You dally.
I guess we've been making bone broth for about a year, and it's easy, dude. Like, it's not hard. You boil some bones for about 24 hours.
Literally as easy as making a steak. You know what I mean? It's more time, but it's just it's not any harder.
Yeah, no, it's super easy, and I've tweaked it a little bit, so I'll like hit it with an emulsion blender so I kind of homogenize my stuff so you don't have big chunks of this or that.
It tastes so good.
And it's really good. I use it in soups. We use
now, do you only use beef or do you use chicken or do you use different animals?
I'll use whatever, man. So for Thanksgiving, I did a organic free range turkey and stripped the meat. Boom, that thing went right into the pot. I use buffalo or grass fed beef.
So what you do is
chicken.
you try to get most of the meat off of the bone, and then you put it in a flat pan, and you bake it or broil it for how long do you boil the bones for?
You know what? Sometimes I've done that.
Okay.
But a lot of times that's
the only way that I know to do it.
I'll just throw it in. I'll just throw
in a
it
crock pot.
in a pot. Yeah, in a pot on the stove. Let it simmer for about 24 hours. Let the bones simmer for 24 hours
in water.
or so. In water, in some purified water. Sometimes I'll throw some bay leaves in there, and you know, for a little bit of flavor. Throw some different herbs
people
in
put
there.
the people will like char. Not it's the wrong word, but. Like they'll put under a broiler vegetables and stuff, a tray of vegetables and
roast
salt them
it to kind of bring out. So
yeah.
I'll do that. So I'll have the bone broth by itself, and then if I'm going to do a soup or something with it, boom, I will do like sweat some carrots and onions and celery, and then kind of add that all in, and brown some meat, and then get all the nice crusty stuff off the bottom. Deglaze the pan, do all that fancy shit. But yeah, I mean, it's super easy.
I would love to do a cleanse like that, where that's all that I ingested for like a week and just see what happens. Like, I feel like there's all the nourishment that you require is there probably.
There's quite a bit. For me, I'm a skinny guy. Like I can get hypoglycemic pretty quick. So what do you
think about being hypoglycemic? What do you ever fuck with, like a ketogenic diet or something like that, or where does that conversation ever come in? Where you're like, I want to be a fat burner instead of a sugar burner.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried it, and I experiment with this stuff out of camp.
That's the thing. In camp, you got to.
When I'm in camp, like we got to stick with what we know and what works. When I'm out of camp, trying some fasting and some different stuff, and I've dabbled a little bit. I haven't really got into it a whole lot. Mike and I have had this conversation that for short periods of time, it's good. It's kind of hard over a long period to sustain,
right.
And then you almost kind of swing pretty far back the other way. Like your body's like, okay, now we need fucking carbohydrates.
What happened with me? I went ketogenic for I don't know, maybe 4 months or something, I think. But then what started happening was, and I felt like a Superman for that. It was amazing. But then I think cortisol levels rose in my body, and I never tested it. I should have because I don't know. But I talked to like a biochemist. He says, well, this is what will happen generally is your cortisol levels rise to such a point that it changes a lot of the hormones in your body, and then you'll become more sluggish. You won't get the result anymore. And he's like, you need to start eating some sweet potatoes, and you need to start getting some rice in your body, and so that but it's cool. I like it, and it wasn't until I stopped ever needing to make a weight that I was able to feel free enough to go, yeah, let's fuck with this a little bit and like see what these diets are, see what this is, and it's a growing conversation that's always changing.
It is, and the data on diet and nutrition and everything it's this emerging field, and it's changing like nonstop. What we knew and what we thought, 3-4 years ago, get your macros in, that's the most important thing. That's still important, but maybe to a lesser degree, or not.
People are really speaking about quality of food now.
Quality of food and nutrient dense, micronutrient heavy, greens and vegetables and and organ meats that usually we discard and we kind of turn our nose up at. We're like, yuck, I don't like liver, I had it when I was a kid, yuck, they try to get me to eat it. That shit is good for you, man, dude. If we were cavemen, we wouldn't fucking throw away a quarter of the damn animal. We would eat every fucking bit of it that we could, and we would be
back home. I grew up hunting deer, like whitetail, and so people would steal. They'd steal two things. They'd steal your tenderloins, and they would steal the hearts. If you left, right away, like you learn as a kid, like I'm gonna go gut this animal. I'm gonna leave this for the coyotes, and then I'm gonna also, before we go get a 4-wheeler or whatever to fucking take it out, or before I hike it out if I have to quarter it or whatever, I'm gonna take the loins and I'm gonna take the heart, and then instantly right out fresh, fucking slice it up. I would dip it in fucking butter and fry it, and it's the best goddamn thing ever. Deer heart is amazing.
Oh yeah, liver too, man.
Yeah, that's
good stuff.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I love that. Well, you guys got to go train. You're on your way or what?
Yeah. Well, I got.
What's a day in the life like right now?
Depends, man. It varies. It depends on what how my body feels, what we did yesterday. This week has been hard. We went Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, multiple training sessions each day. Yep. Today I'm going to take a little bit of a rest, and then we're going to hit it tonight. More of a skills session than an intensity session. Yep. We did a lot of intensity yesterday, so it's kind of this undulating thing.
Who do you work skills with?
Tonight it will be Coach Winklejohn. We do like a late night kind of a deal. I feel like my body is more awake at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. I feel awesome. In the morning, like I go in and I get my work in, but like if I'm running or something, my body's like, no, don't go back to sleep. We don't want to do this. How dope is
Wink that he's like, whenever. He's just he just says yes.
He's there for you.
The guy is something else, man.
Yep. I mean, it's his passion.
You train with Cowboy a lot, like as a partner.
A good amount. Yeah.
You guys are real similar in like for sure striking capability and your drive to finish and shit like that. And I wonder what that was like, because I know that like at a certain point, I feel like it's changing now in MMA to where it's almost like you have to be more and more unkind to your partners and look to finish in ways that maybe years ago you wouldn't have, and you would have saved that for the fight, but now people are practicing that actually in the rooms. And hence, like I know guys, and Cowboy being one that flies guys in or whatever, or has guys that he's like, I don't mind going really truly full speed and head kicking that guy or whatever. And like do you feel like that there's been a shift in that, or is that my imagination?
If you're flying guys in and you don't have this rapport with them, I think that's definitely.
Do you think it's helpful? I mean, so that you're at high predation when you're there, or you're like, no, this is different, and I would.
So when Cowboy and me go,
right,
when we spar, it's not like that. We have this rapport.
Sure.
We're in there. We're working. We're tagging each other. The intensity gets raised up, but we're not going to the point. We're getting maybe 70%, but we're not. Even if I'm head kicking you, I'm tagging you. I'm not trying to hurt you.
Right.
And vice versa, because I don't think that's necessarily helpful on our level. Him and I between
I was just
us
wondering if you feel like you're pulling it. Like, do you feel like if you're pulling shots in training, do you ever worry that translates like when you're on game day?
Not necessarily. No, not really. I mean, I know when it's go time. Yeah. My body knows when it's go time. When this other guy, I know. I look across and I see that dude's.
Like this is a different intention.
I see, nothing but hate and animosity peering back towards me. It's like, oh no, it's time to go. We're not pulling. It's we're taking the safety off.
I need to finish this.
We're pulling the pin on this grenade, and we're gonna fucking do work.
Yeah. different guys. Like if you're fighting like a Dan Hardy or somebody that finishes guys with his hands a lot, a different fight than if you're fighting like I remember when you fought for WC belt, and it's like you're going against a guy that's a super duper fucking strong wrestler, and like is that a different kind of feeling that you have when you're looking at those guys? Are you? I mean, of course, it's different game plans, but what's going on in your head? Versus like I can grind this out. A wrestler, she's not going to finish me, and I'll probably finish it. You know, there can be a confidence that you get there. Like I'm going to finish him eventually. Like he's going to butt me around because he's a, fucking super strong, highly energized American wrestler, which is maybe the guy in the best shape in the world, and they can do that. But they're not going to finish you or whatever. Versus a guy that's like he can put me away. Like is that? Do you think the difference is when you have different opponents like that?
Not necessarily. I think the training and the preparation is a little bit different with regards to the game plan and the tactics, but my mindset for the most part is the same. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to finish this guy. Yeah. I'm going to try to put him away. The safest time for me in that cage is after the ref pulls me off and the fight's over. That's when I'm safe. Yeah. So I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna use my skills and my abilities and the things that we've worked on in camp to try to finish this guy as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Yeah. What do you have any fights when you go, if I'd have just done this would have changed the whole outcome of that? Yeah.
I do, and I don't look back on that with like emotional regret because that's
no. But as a technical thing, like
for sure,
this can't happen again.
For sure, and sometimes that goes back to the training camps. Like, oh wow, you know what? In this training camp, we had this emphasis on whatever. And that kind of didn't pan out in the fight, and we didn't know it until we went there. Right. Until we put the thing into the real live test. That it didn't work out the way that we thought, and now we're going to learn from that, and we're going to change it up a little bit.
Is there a thing where you give a guy too much respect, like too much regard or the hype or something? Like when you fought George, like is that a thing in your head where it's like this is a fucking, and you make it a bigger deal than it needs to be because it's just a scrap at the end of the day?
Yeah, I have. I feel like though when I'm, the more nervous I get before a fight, the easier it is to like turn that fire on in backstage in the dressing room, and I'm ready to go. So, I mean, even for those fights, I've still had good performances.
Same, yeah.
Yeah,
I felt like that too. I was impressed as fuck. Yeah. Looking at that, and I was just I'm like, it's just always interesting to think about like what goes into it and where your mind is, and like how do you get into the like you say, it's like such a variant. It's like, I guess like diet, like anything else. It's like it's the same. This fighter, it's like it's going to be different on every day, and it's like going to be whatever presents you. Killer. You you want to do this again sometime?
I would love to.
Me too.
Absolutely. This was awesome.
How do people find you? At Dolce Diet?
Everywhere's the Dolce Diet. And business wise, that's the best way to do it. Okay. Like our URL, our social media, even my our email extensions, everything's at the Dolce Diet. And there you go. So you can find us on Twitter, social, website, and we're here.
And Carlos Condit with an underscore between Carlos and Condit on Instagram.
Yep. Carlos_Condit, at Carlos Condit on Twitter. Carlos Condit got a fan page on Facebook.
Right on.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Thanks, guys, for taking the time. And I love you guys, and this is so fun, and I'm glad we're doing it, man. Right on.
Respect, brother. Thank you.
All right.